very good morning to you. An historic day for America.
Joe Biden drops out of the presidential race after growing pressure about his health. Biden endorses his VP Kamala Harris to take on Trump.
Dozens of key Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, are backing Kamala Harris, but President Obama has kept quiet about who his successor should be.
Trump and Republicans waste no time in their attack, calling Biden not fit to serve and to resign the presidency immediately.
But how have Americans reacted to the newly reshaped presidential race?
Harris polls well against Trump, so I think she has a real shot at winning.
I just don't, like I said, I'm still trying to process this because I'm literally just like, damn. There isn't a strong alternative, but it's better in my mind. Whoever it is better than Trump.
I was gonna vote for Biden.
Good morning. We're starting the new week on a rather cloudy note across the UK with some outbreaks of rain in places. Skies will brighten as we go through the morning and certainly some sunny spells this afternoon, but a few showers around too. I'll have all the details later.
1 minute past the hour of 6 o'clock as we start the week on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GBNews Breakfast.
Well, Ellie, here we go. It's an historic day for America. President Joe Biden has announced he is standing down from the presidential race. He says it's in the interest of his party and his country.
Well, it comes just 4 months before Americans go to the polls, upending the race for the White House.
Now, this follows weeks of intense pressure from fellow Democrats after a faltering debate performance against Donald Trump at the end of June.
Well, our political correspondent Olivia Utley has more.
Look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom.
When Joe Biden first became president back in 2020, nobody, not even he, thought he would stand for a second term. He had been a well-liked Vice President to Barack Obama, but at 78, the received wisdom was that he was simply too old to stick around for 8 more years.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while.
When he won the Democratic nomination for the 2024 election back in March of this year, there were some raised eyebrows. But by and large, Democrats kept their counsel.
Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
That is, until the campaign began in earnest. Before long, it became clear to many that Joe Biden's mental faculties had severely declined since he first ran for president.
Mr. President, thank you.
He had always been gaffe-prone, but now the blunders were coming thick and fast.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping. The percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Again and again, he misspoke on the campaign trail, with mistakes ranging from the embarrassing.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
To the diplomatically disastrous.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response.
Questions started to be raised around the world.
They're implying that President Biden is senile. Is he?
Closer to home, the Trump team rubbed their hands together with glee.
Let's do another debate this week so that sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president.
But Biden, who by this point would only take advice from a very small circle of close associates, was defiant.
I
I'm staying in the race. I mean, if the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down.
One by one, however, the senior Democrats around Biden, from Barack Obama to Nancy Pelosi, privately told the president that the game was up. And eventually, he and his team accepted that the moment had come to pull out of the race. Kamala Harris will now take his place as the only Democrat able to access the millions of dollars of donations raised under the Biden-Harris ticket. Will she have what it takes to defeat the electoral storm that is Donald Trump? We will find out soon enough. Olivia Utley, GB News.
Analysis now. Let's go to our reporter, who is Mark White, on this one this morning. Mark, good morning to you. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I mean, it's one of these events, isn't it, where we had been expecting some kind of announcement for some time. But of course, when it came, it was still very shocking in nature. And I think most people had been able to see for a considerable time the health and cognitive decline of President Biden. But he had been resistant really for a very significant time to these growing calls for him to stand down. But in what seems to have taken even some of his closest campaign team and advisors by surprise, he decided to issue that social media message confirming that he would now be standing down. And then shortly after that, another message endorsing Kamala Harris. So I think the interesting thing going forward will be to see just what the Democratic Party does in terms of those senior figures. Quite a significant number coming out already and endorsing Kamala Harris. But will that actually be the case for all of those significant party leaders going forward? Will we look at some kind of an expedited race? That could get messy. So I think the sound money is on probably Kamala Harris taking over the party's nomination. Already, those for the Biden-Harris campaign are rebranding all of their campaign websites and the like to just call it Kamala HQ and the Kamala campaign. So going forward, let's see just what happens. But I think, as I say, most betting is on Kamala Harris just taking over that party nomination.
But she's got a job on her hands, hasn't she, Mark? She's got to convince a sceptical Democratic Party that she is the best person to lead the country. She hasn't exactly been a popular VP, has she?
No, her track record is questionable. That's absolutely right. She's renowned for, when it comes to giving interviews or speeches, this sort of word salad of sometimes impenetrable answers that she gives. She was a woman in the first days of the presidency who was given some responsibility for sorting out the mess on the US southern border. And no one looking at that can ever suggest that that was in any way successful, with hundreds of thousands, millions of people pouring over that border. And that is one key attack line, of course, that the Republicans will lay fairly squarely, I should say, at the feet of Kamala Harris in an election campaign proper, should she become the Democratic nominee.
Mark, we'll leave it there for the moment. As reaction comes in, we'll get back to you. Thank you very much indeed. We now go to the deputy editor of The Spectator, Freddie Gray. Wasn't just a question of if, but when, wasn't it?
Well, I think so, yes. I mean, what was interesting, though, was that Thursday, Friday, kind of, very well-informed reporter from Washington was saying they know it's happening this weekend, and it seemed definite. And then on Saturday morning, you started getting this pushback from the White House, saying, no, it's not a done deal yet. And the well-sourced reporters now are saying that apparently Biden has been fuming. He's been at home in Rehoboth in Delaware, fuming at Barack Obama for having stabbed him in the back, he feels. Other Democrats have obviously turned on him. He felt he could go on. He got this bout of COVID. Apparently he has been very sick, doesn't sound very well. That's the reason why he hasn't appeared publicly yet. But that in itself is very odd. We're hearing this sort of mysterious, unbodied Biden. resigning, or not resigning, sorry, not running for re-election. It's a very, very odd moment in American politics, and it's a very extraordinary one.
And it's quite clear, isn't it, from that statement from him, that it's not his personal decision. He talks about it being the right decision for America, the right decision for his party. He doesn't say it's the right decision for him or his family, does he? Which I thought was quite interesting.
Yes, I think there's a lot of bitterness there, and there's some bitterness from the family. I mean, Jill Biden immediately put a heart emoji on the letter of resignation, but I think she's been very cross at the way senior Democrats have turned on. The relationship between the Bidens and the Obamas is fascinating. They really, under the surface, there's real tension there. They really don't like each other. Michelle Obama doesn't like the way that the Biden family treated Hunter's first wife, who was a friend of hers. And ever since 2015, 2006, in fact, earlier than that, 2007, Joe Biden did not like Barack Obama and vice versa. Then Barack Obama picked him for electoral reasons to be his vice president. They didn't get on very well at first. They did find a working relationship, and by the end they had this sort of public bromance. But there was always tensions, and Obama never really rated Biden and never really thought he should be president, which is why he was so slow to endorse him in 2020.
But whatever, Freddie, Mrs. Biden, President Biden, do they not have any mirrors in their house? Can they not look in the mirror and see what way this man comes across?
Well, power is one hell of a drug, I think, and it's very difficult to give it up. Nobody gives up Air Force One. I remember one Democrat telling me that when... But it was an absurd situation, and I mean, it's been, as everybody's now saying, it's been very obvious to a lot of people for a long time that even before he got into the White House, Joe Biden was not well. He was in decline then, and he just seems to have got worse and worse and worse. And I think one of the scandals of the last 4 years, it might go down as one of the great American political scandals, is how lots of people who knew better insisted that he was fine for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we had this farcical situation of effectively a whole administration covering up the fact that the leader was not well physically and mentally.
Yeah. Stay with us, Freddie, because we're going to bring in now former Republican presidential candidate and former Congressman Joe Walsh. Joe, good morning to you.
Good to be with you all.
Yeah, well, what's your take? What do you think?
Crazy stuff, huh? Crazy stuff going on in America. Look, not at all a surprise. Joe Biden had one job in this campaign. He had one thing to prove, that he wasn't too old and that he could do the job. He couldn't prove that. In fact, he proved just the opposite. And so I give him a lot of credit. I agree, this may not be exactly what he wants to do, but he's been convinced to put the country first because he believes Trump's a threat to our democracy. I believe that. And so Biden believes somebody else can beat Trump and he can't.
You are a Republican. I mean, we all sit this side of the Atlantic and think, is this the best a country the size and as powerful as America can do? Biden and Trump, is this the very best they can do?
Hey, we get the government we deserve. Look, the world's oldest, greatest democracy, we're broken. Our political system is broken, so this is what we have. And it's unfortunate. We need a lot of reform. We need more than two political parties. We need another party. We need major reform, but right now we're paralyzed by this matchup that nobody really wanted. And so now with Biden gone, you throw in Kamala Harris, I think it will generate a lot of enthusiasm because this isn't another old guy.
At what point in the past few weeks for you did this decision become inevitable, do you think, for Joe Biden? Because the campaign has been falling apart for weeks, hasn't it? But what do you think the moment of no return was?
It was that debate. I mean, you're right in that a lot of people privately knew that Biden wasn't as he appeared in public. He was different in private. There were some issues there. But that debate probably will go down as one of the most significant presidential debates in American history. Nobody in America can erase what they saw. And in the months since the debate, Biden hasn't been able to disprove what Americans saw in that debate. That was really the turning point, or the final straw.
Did Biden himself not see it? Did his wife not see it? Friends and family not take him aside and say, Joe, you're going to have to get out of this?
Biden's always been stubborn. I do believe that Joe Biden still believed up until this weekend that he was the best positioned Democrat to beat Trump. Look, he's not senile. I mean, he's gotten a lot of stuff done these 3.5 years. But I think when he was shown this weekend that you really don't have a pathway to beat Trump, and Biden was shown that by his oldest, closest advisors, I think that convinced him, again, damn it, I've got to put the country first. We cannot let Trump get elected.
Who's going to win the election?
Oh, I think Kamala Harris is going to win the nomination easily, and I think she'll beat Donald Trump because, look, the one thing I know is this, and I say this as a never Trumper, Trump supporters are passionate, and they're going to vote for him, but there are more Americans who oppose Trump than support him. They just need to be excited enough to vote. Biden didn't excite them. Kamala Harris will.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting, Joe. Appreciate your take, Joe Walsh. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
Thank you. Freddie, I didn't expect him to say that Kamala Harris would walk this one.
Well, he is. I think he's one of America's leading never-Trumpers, so I think you have to take that with a slight pinch of salt. I think that, I mean, one thing I'd say about Kamala Harris is the reason why this Biden farce, if you like, has gone on so long is because Kamala Harris is such a weak candidate. So she, if she had been thought of as a talented person who could definitely win this election, Joe Biden would have been pushed out years ago.
Yeah.
He would have been pushed out before, around the midterms. He would have probably said, I'm not going on.
But as the Democratic Party lets itself down in that sense, then, has it been reckless and potentially cruel in leaving it this long so that the only person who can be on the ticket now is Harris because she's the only one that can access the millions of dollars of funding?
Well, yes. I mean, the Democratic Party has definitely been foolish at best, arrogant and haughty at worst. And sort of, they really thought that they could get away with pretending that they could present a different Joe Biden to the reality to the public and get away with it. And it just wasn't going to be possible.
We go to Nashville now, where we're joined by former advisor to Presidents Clinton and Bush. We say hello, good morning to friend of the show, Steve Gill. Steve.
Hey, good morning.
Well,
bizarre times. This is strange on steroids. And to underline it, there are serious rumors of whether Joe Biden is alive today. The way that this statement went out, it doesn't look like his signature. It's underlined. It's not on presidential stationery. His own staff weren't aware until social media told them. And when you look at the decline cognitively and physically, and from a frailness standpoint, since the debate, he's gotten worse day after day after day. And there are literally serious rumors of whether he's even alive right now.
And it does suggest, doesn't it, Steve, that this was a very last-minute decision by Joe Biden. It's thought that he told his staff at 1:45 that he was quitting the presidential race, and that statement went out at 1:46.
And for those that are in the White House senior staff beyond that tight inner circle, they first learned a bit on social media. And I think the challenge for the Democrats is that nobody sees in Kamala Harris somebody who has to use the word they were using when President Bush was picking his vice president, Dick Cheney, does she have gravitas? Does anybody believe she can go toe-to-toe with Putin, with Xi, with Kim Jong-un, or really stand side by side at an equal level with our allies as well? She is not capable of doing the job. And I think she's been an insider that should have known for a long time that Joe Biden isn't and hasn't been capable of doing the job, which again raises the question, yeah, he can step aside as the nominee. It's questionable whether this guy should be operating for another day as president of the United States with his cognitive and physical decline.
So where does that leave us? Who would be the best candidate then for the Democrats?
I think, as Ellie pointed out, the money talks. She inherits about $91 million in funding. She's the only one who can inherit that funding at this point. Otherwise, anybody else would start with zero in their coffers. And you already have key Democrats like Clyburn, the black congressman from South Carolina, who helped Joe get the nomination 4 years ago, saying that if you bypass Kamala, basically we're going to burn the house down. So they have serious problems within their party if they try to pick anybody but her.
No endorsement, though, from Barack Obama for Kamala Harris.
You know, I think the anger and animosity between the Obamas and the Bidens is pretty well documented. I think they will come along because they'll recognize there really is no other option. But I think at the bottom line also, you're going to see Kamala get attacked viciously because she was put, as Eamonn pointed out earlier, in charge of the border security. She was the border czar. 10 to 20 million people have come across that border. And Donald Trump's own response to Biden's announcement has been to immediately target Kamala for blowing the main thing she was given in charge of, and that was the border.
But Steve, you could argue that the bar has been set so low in terms of expectations for Kamala Harris. She's already doing better than anybody thought.
I would agree with that, but the scrutiny, and again, we're 106 days or so from the election day. They have to rebrand her as capable, competent, not speaking in word salad. Then they'll have to introduce a VP nominee and introduce them and brand them. They got a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time. And the image of Trump in that assassination attempt, his strength, his great convention that he just had, they got a lot of work to do. And I would certainly disagree with anybody who thinks that Kamala Harris is going to beat Donald Trump based on her poll numbers, based on his poll numbers, and based upon the policies that the Democrats will continue to pursue under her, just like they were under Donald Trump. Inflation, or Joe Biden, under Donald Trump, we're going to see better on inflation. We're going to see better on border security, national security. All of the issues that were hampering Joe Biden transfer right to Kamala Harris, and she can't change that.
Steve, do you think we'll see President Biden stay on as president until January? Because there is going to be that growing pressure now, from the Trump camp especially, saying, well, if you're not fit enough to run for re-election, well, you're not fit enough to run the country.
I think that is an appropriate question, and particularly when if you saw when he announced he had COVID, was trying to barely make it up the steps of Air Force One on the short steps. His brother, Frank, said something ominous in his statement that he's glad that Biden is doing this because we can spend basically the brief amount of time he still has available, with his family. I mean, that sounds like a guy who thinks he's not going to make it till next week.
Yeah, okay. Well, Steve, thank you very much. We've got to leave it there. We're out of time. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, my friends. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
I'm sure
Thanks,
we will.
Steve.
Well, Freddie, final word to you.
Final word would be, I find the rumours about Biden actually being dead quite extraordinary. I doubt that's true, but I think...
nothing more than rumours.
But I do think the very fact that people are able to say that tells you a lot. And it tells you about the great disaster that the Democrats are now finding themselves in. It's really perilous times for Democrats, and Steve was quite right to point out that in less than 100 days, around 100 days, they've got to rebrand Kamala Harris as competent, effective. That debate on September 10th now is going to be, if it happens between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, that's going to be absolutely vital. If she can't produce the most mesmerisingly brilliant performance, I think the Democrats are in real trouble.
And she knows that, doesn't she? She uses the word earn. She's earned her nomination. She knows she needs to prove herself.
Well, I thought it was very interesting she used the word earn. I thought that might be hinting that she would accept some kind of open primary. Of course, she would have all the support because she's now getting all these congressmen and so on. But she might want to establish some legitimacy for her nomination. She might want some sort of mini primary around the convention, which is in Chicago in the middle of August, 18th, 19th of August.
Freddie, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Obviously,
great pleasure
throughout the programme. Appreciate that. Other news stories that you're waking up to on this Monday morning. 6 people, including 2 children, have died in a collision between Wakefield and Barnsley yesterday afternoon. Emergency services received reports of the accident, which involved a Ford Focus car and a motorcycle shortly before 4 o'clock. Superintendent Alan Travis of Wakefield District Police said this is an absolutely tragic incident which has resulted in the loss of 6 lives.
6 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenage boy was shot dead in a park in West London. The teenager, believed to be 15 years old, was pronounced dead at the scene after being found suffering from injuries by emergency services. Work is ongoing to identify and inform the teenage victim's next of kin.
Normal levels of service at GP surgeries will take some time to come back after the IT outage. The British Medical Association warned GPs need time to catch up on lost work after the tech glitch knocked a computer system used by doctors offline. Right, let's take a big deep breath and
Just thinking that.
think of nice things.
Yeah.
Nice things.
Like money.
Yes, like 30,000 quid's worth of money tax-free in our Great British Giveaway.
Yes, our biggest cash prize of the year. So have a think, what would you do with that extra cash? Here's how you could win it all.
Don't miss your chance to win our Super Summer Giveaway. With your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
And good luck to you if you are entering that. Still to come in the programme this morning, the sort of things we're going to be talking about. The Prime Minister set to deal with Britain's what he calls fragmented and broken skills system. Catherine Foster will have the latest on that.
And the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, promises to crack down on car washes and beauty salons in an immigration blitz.
Well, about time, I would say. You look at that and people talk. I mean, every time I go and get my hair cut, and I think, why has it got to be cash?
Yeah.
Why can I never buy a kebab unless it's cash? They won't take a credit card anywhere. The nail bars, I don't use the nail bars personally, but have you ever used it?
I do, and they're cash only as well.
Really?
Yeah, and you do worry about some of these sorts of places. And as you say, it's well known. It's known about.
And the
black
car
market
wash situation and the young lads who are there doing that, goodness me. But, you know, again, it's obvious, it's there, there's something dodgy, and no one seems to have ever done anything about it. Well done, Yvette Cooper, for pointing it out and making them all think. But it's true, I just cannot believe that, you know, I go into a barber's and you go to pay with your card and you're talking,
no.
you know, anything from 16 to 36 quid, you know, depending on what it is. And I can't take a card.
No.
You have to have cash.
No, and there's so many places like it. You know, think of your car washes, think of your nail salons. We're all aware, aren't we? So
but
it's common sense.
But they all have things in common, which is they seem to be staffed by people who were not born in this country, and they only take cash. Whereas we have to take machines and do everything by the book and all that sort of thing. Let us know your view. Let us know if you're a customer. Let us know if you object or you don't care less. Back after this.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Go and get another glass of that bubbly, you've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel. Now, we're talking about immigration and we're talking about the Prime Minister launching a new training programme aimed at sharpening the country's workforce in line with economic needs, people who receive cash only, and the Home Secretary is, she's deciding to put task force examining all this sort of thing as well. And always watch your wheel nuts as well at those car washes. They put a very acidic sort of solution when they clean your wheels at the end. No wonder the wheels become clean. It like burns everything off.
No, I hadn't spotted that before.
I'm not a fan myself.
Yes,
anyway.
But Yvette Cooper has been outlining this immigration crackdown. So it's going to be on things like beauty salons and car washes.
I want to know what you think about this. If this affects you, do you care, do you not care as well? Catherine Foster, she's going to explain more. Catherine, good morning to you.
Good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Well, yes, Yvette Cooper, the new Home Secretary, is keen to demonstrate that they are acting on people who are working illegally in the UK. Obviously, net migration numbers are huge. There's also the not so small matter of people crossing the channel illegally. This government have scrapped the Rwanda plan, so they are keen to be seen to be acting. So Yvette Cooper is saying that over the summer, enforcement officers are going to be targeting places like nail bars, like car washes, where often people are working cash in hand and not necessarily legally. Now, as you said earlier, this is well known, so you may say that this has been a long time coming. Yvette Cooper says she's also been horrified to hear that 1,000 civil servants had been tasked with working on Rwanda, a plan which is now firmly in the bin, a few $100 million along with it. So the government wants to be seen to act on this and also on skills, because it's clearly apparent that there is a skills shortage in this country. That's something that has pretty much doubled, the government says, between 2017 and 22. So they're launching this body called Skills England today. That's going to bring people together from local government, central government, businesses, trade unions, training providers to, first of all, work out what the skills gaps are and then work out how to address them. Now, we know, of course, that Tony Blair had a big focus on getting kids to university. He wanted half of all young people to go. We're pretty much there, but we also know that there's now tons of graduates and there simply aren't the graduate jobs for all of them. So we now see lots of young people with huge debts. And agrees, frankly, that, well, whether they're worth it or not is very questionable now. Things like apprenticeships, technical education has been neglected in this country for a very long time. Employers say that over and over again. Countries like Germany have a much better sort of infrastructure of degree apprenticeships. So this is something that the government wants to address. I have to say, though, identifying a problem and then fixing the problem are two very, very different things. None of this is going to come quickly. It's part of what the government says is going to drive growth, but none of this is going to happen very quickly.
Catherine, thank you very much indeed. See, I don't understand why that can't be done quickly. I mean, it's quite obvious. Why are you only of one nationality working in this car wash, right, as well? And I don't understand young people today. When I was young and I needed money, I'd wash cars. You would literally take a bucket and a sponge and a chamois and you would ask, do you want your car washed, mister? And that's exactly what you would do.
Yeah, or walk
now
the dog.
You have to be Albanian. You know, if you're not Albanian, you're not qualified to wash a car, it appears. Why do people here not want to do that sort of work? Why do they not want to cut hedges, cut grass, you know, roll up their sleeves and be involved, wash cars, do all those things that seem to be... And the workers were talking about getting cash in hand, not being tracked down. But Catherine says it'll not be easy to do, not be easy to crack down on. I reckon if you turned up at one of these barbers would ever say, could I see your books? Can I see your books? So let's have a look through and see how this all tallies up. But I was watching Dad's Army last night, and the butcher, what's his name? Oh, you won't know what his name is, but anyway, his books didn't add up last night.
Oh, really?
Yes, he owed 50 quid. It was very funny.
Oh, right. But on your point about why it would take so long, I can only imagine it's because it's so widespread. It's everywhere, isn't it? And as Catherine was saying, it's well documented.
Yeah, but it's all owned by the same people.
No, not necessarily.
Well, most of it, I reckon, if you just acted hard on them, you know, that would soon dry up. But there we go. How the heck? I don't know. It couldn't be that hard to run this country, could it really? Dawn Neeson, Chris Akabusi, Papers, next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In West Dunbartonshire, the A814 is closed off the A82 in Dumbarton because of a fire. The M74 in South Lanarkshire is closed northbound from junction 12 at Millbank to 11 at Poneal after a lorry overturned. Diversions are by the B7078. On the A1 in West Yorkshire, there are southbound queues towards roadworks at the Darrington turnoff. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed each way along Barnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. In Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed each way along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. In the West Midlands, Hockley Hill in Birmingham is closed southbound for an investigation. And in London, the A316 is closed southbound along Country Way from the Waterworks roundabout in Hanworth to junction 1 of the M3 at Sunbury Cross after an accident. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Well, we've got quite an extraordinary story to talk to you about now because a triple amputee war hero is launching a bid to become the first to sail across the Pacific Ocean non-stop, solo and unsupported.
Craig Wood was blown up as a teenager by the Taliban in Afghanistan, but now he's hoping to change the perception of disabled people and raise money for other limbless veterans like himself. And Craig joins us now. Morning.
So, Craig, you are extraordinary. You are planning to take up to 80 days to sail from La Paz in Mexico to Japan.
Yeah.
How many miles is that?
It'll be over 6,000.
Amazing.
Amazing. And it will take you how long?
The minimum it's going to take me is 60 days. It could be up to 80. Yeah.
And that's on your own. You've done plenty of this before, haven't you? You've done lots of solo sailing.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of solo sailing, but not as big as this. It is the world's biggest ocean, after all.
And why that particular route?
I wanted it to be a challenge, not just for me, but for anyone.
Right.
So any able-bodied person can look at this and go, wow, that is difficult.
Yeah.
And so that was the main drive. then it's become a bigger thing than that now. Now I'm raising money for charity, and I can truly inspire people to change their perception on what is possible for disabled people.
And if you don't mind, can we ask you what happened in 2009 in Afghanistan? What were the circumstances of your injury?
I was on a normal routine foot patrol. About 5 metres in front of me, a commando IED was triggered, and subsequently I became a triple amputee, both legs above the knee, left hand at the wrist, facial injuries, etc., etc.
The People's Channel.
Well, a week from now, it's going to be, well, the Olympics, they'll be underway. They'll be underway.
Friday 26th, yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what? I couldn't tell you who's who and what events they take part in, but I'm going to enjoy it.
Oh yeah, no, the Olympics is going to be great. I mean, it is the greatest show on earth.
Yeah.
Once every 4 years, the best, the quickest, strongest, fastest young people in our globe gather at a location, this time in Paris, to show how good they really are. It's a great feeling to represent your country, to be called, to go and get your kit, your uniform, to stand alongside someone like myself, like in 1984, first-time Olympian, to stand alongside Lord Sebastian Coe, Steve Cram, Ovett, Daley Thompson.
Before they were all those things.
Before they were, these superstars. To realise... Well, actually, no. They were the superstars. No. Sorry, did I say no?
Sirs.
Yeah, they weren't, so, yeah. But to be able to be on the same team, the same bus, to go through the same sort of the vetting scenario, getting the uniform is a very important day. And so here we go, on the 26th of July, all young people will be there. The story that they're talking about at the moment, though, is that there are so many tickets still available. Initially, when I read the story, I was quite surprised because London 2012...
You couldn't get tickets, could you?
We couldn't. Well, so we thought. But actually, there were 250,000 tickets still left for London 2012. Oh. Mainly the football tournament. Lots of tickets available. So the question is, why? Of course, they have to have contingency plans. They need tickets for those people who turn up lastminute.com. So there'll be some of those available for them. But I look at the prices. Somewhere, you can pay £1,000.
Yeah, I know.
For
and also you've got to get to Paris and things.
Yeah,
you've got to pay for accommodation. Which
absolutely.
Yeah, through the roof.
The other thing is, there's certain sports I don't think should be in the Olympics, and football is one of them. I just don't think. I mean, track and field, I'm all for that. No, absolutely no problem. But football, goodness, if there isn't enough football.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got some sort of sympathy for that because I mean, there's lots of professional sports. Now, basketball, for example, basketball was great, and then all of a sudden the NBA crew were allowed in, and that can be a bit challenging when you think of the multi-million-pound players you got there against an amateur. Is there such thing as an amateur? This is another good discussion because even in my day, as an athlete, you went from amateurism, where you had a few bob in brown envelopes, to professional athletics. And even athletes today, if you're going to make it to the top, you can't do it as a part-timer. You can't have a day job.
We'll get that. I mean, you actually wonder how, like, international rugby teams were amateur and, how they survived and did all that. And again, track and field, how you would expect it is incredible. Could I ask you, you said getting the uniform is a big thing. Would you still have your blazer or...
Oh, gosh. In fact, I nearly put it on today.
Still wears it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh,
Did you have it on Saturday?
You did.
You did?
Yes, I did. Yes. Exactly. I had the Seoul one, 1988. I had the Seoul one. I wear 1984 regular. 1992, I can't quite wear it. For some reason, that cut was so sharp. I can't get into that youthful body. But I'm very proud of my blazers. They are, they're testament to the moment. Also, to the fashion of the times. It's a great
They also
privilege.
say, Don, I was reading yesterday that each athlete, as part of their welcome pack, they get 2 boxes of condoms.
Yeah. You've got... I mean, the thing is, you've got... Stop
laugh at you.
Did you get those? Did you get those?
To be used afterwards, not before.
I've heard his stories, don't worry. You've still got your lycra as well, haven't you? I know. But I think you get a lot of young, fit people, and they're young, most of them are single, they're locked up in the village for a good while, aren't they? You can't go out partying, you can't go out drinking, so what else is there to do?
You wouldn't think they'd have any energy left.
Lots of relationships are formed and then go on afterwards to be serious relationships, so it's not all hanky-panky.
Dawn, should we touch on our top story of today, the seismic decision from Joe Biden to step out of the race?
I guess we have to. I mean, it's very, as a former newspaper editor, it's very interesting that every single newspaper has got it on page one, as they should do, by the way, apart from the Daily Mirror, which has got a story so inconsequential, I can't even remember what it was, something about housing or something or other. OK, it's an exclusive, but I mean, look, this isn't just about American politics. This is a global issue, isn't it? And when we've got Netanyahu due to visit America this week, and it was Trump that helped broker the peace deal, the agreement back in 2020, and it's going to be very interesting how Netanyahu now handles this situation. So Biden's timing is curious. I think it was coming from America all weekend that it was due to happen this weekend. He was going to step down this weekend. Whether he knew it or not is another matter. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens now with the whole Israel-Gaza situation. But I mean, and Kamala Harris, I mean, who's going to be her running mate? How is this going to work? She hasn't covered herself in glory, has she?
But you would expect, I mean, anybody in any sort of leadership scenario has to have some sort of succession planning, don't they? So you would like to think that the leading democratic country in the world had a succession plan for Mr. Biden stepping down, and that if Kamala Harris isn't seen as a real viable option, then there would also be... It's
really... you think about the planning, it's very interesting, isn't it, that Osama bin Laden actually had an assassination plan for Barack Obama when he was president, but he said to the assassins that he was using, but leave Joe Biden alone, because if he gets into power, as vice president as he was, he's going to be chaos in America.
OK. Chris, obviously I was born in Northern Ireland, and nowhere are you further than half an hour from the seaside, so it's anathema for me to think about not ever having visited a beach or a coastal area or water. But here's a report that you want to talk about featured in the Mail today.
Yeah, it's quite strange to think that many young children don't have the joy of having sand in their sandwiches.
Or smelling the seaside.
Yeah, of course,
collecting shells.
Yes, digging for crabs. Walking along the pier.
Through the sewage.
Well, these are the reasons why, some of the reasons why it's not happening is parents are not prepared to have those long queues driving to the seaside, kids upset in the back of the car, queues for your chips or your
Maybe
facilities.
kids don't go for it these days. Maybe they're not interested.
We were talking about this earlier because we both, as kids, used to go down to Clacton. We were probably on the beach at the same time as kids. But it's like, kids are on their phones. Like, we didn't have that distraction. When we were kids, we couldn't wait to go to the seaside. It was a real treat. But kids, I'm sorry, but they're so spoilt these days. They've got all the technology. They don't need to go and run around on a beach, do they? And I think parents are being lazy by not taking them.
I guess one of the questions to ask is, are we losing anything? Are we losing anything in our
there's so much joy in the seaside and going
I agree. I mean, I loved my time at the seaside. But then again, I lived in London N9, and so to get out of London N9 and to drive through the countryside and then end up on these expensive coastways and, seeing the cars of those naughty ladies, see these... When I was a young kid, you saw all these cards, the Clacton Rock, and what was that? Like, real sweet...
candy floss.
Yeah, candy floss.
Cotton candy, as Americans call it.
And watching the adults get tiddled throughout the day so that you can really be naughty and run around till late at night. And then we used to go to holiday camps as well. So all the fun of holiday camps or camping.
But there's a whole aspect in education and aspect of their life that they're missing out on. Are they going to be any worse off?
That's the question.
Not having experienced it.
Yeah, that's what I see. What do we lose in having not done it? And what do you regain by having done it?
I think you're getting out in the fresh air, you're getting out and about, you're seeing, if you're from an inner city, for example, like we both were when we were kids growing up in East and North London, you experience a different aspect. If you're growing up in the city, it's so important, I think, for kids to get out in the fresh air, whether it's the countryside or the seaside. And there's so many inner city kids, especially the poorer working class kids, who just don't do that, don't experience that.
One of the things I think about the great big seaside resorts, Blackpool, Cleethorpes, Skegness, Clacton, Bognor Regis, Minehead, you know, they're missing out. Weston-super-Mare, they are definitely missing out on the traffic. Where everybody sort of twice a year would go down there and absolutely decimate the place and be all the fun of the fair.
Some of the best memories of my childhood are going to the beach and going to the seaside. It is that great British tradition, isn't it? But I also think there's such a lack of investment in our seaside towns. If you go to the likes of something like Clacton now, I mean, it's in a sorry state. It needs some investment, and maybe then if you had that, more people would go.
I think the problem you've got is foreign holidays now are so much cheaper than staying in the UK.
And the weather is so much better than staying in the UK.
Reliable weather,
guaranteed
cheap
weather,
package holidays. The British seaside has been ruined by that. It costs a lot more to go, for example, for 2 weeks in Devon, Cornwall, than it does to go for 2 weeks in Spain.
Wasn't there a big run on the old staycation, though, wasn't it? Well, after the
we had to
COVID, the old staycation, wasn't it? So...
But it was really expensive when we did go to
extortionate,
Devon, Cornwall. Oh, my Lord, it cost a fortune.
Chris, tell us about putting pets on leads. This is in The Sun today, and they're specifically talking about, and I wouldn't have thought of this, putting a cat on a lead.
Yeah, I think it's something quite nouveau, really, that sort of wokey people think it's a great idea to put a cat on the lead. Now, a cat is much more like alert and worried about the environment. It's a runaway animal first, so as soon as something happens, a dog, it wants to run before anything else. So the argument is that you're actually stressing your moggy by putting it on a lead. You're not doing it any favours whatsoever. So yeah, that's the basic story. That you're not being kind. So the RSPCA are really wanting to stop this sort of habit of putting your cat on a lead.
But I saw someone the other day carrying a cat in a baby papoose.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that about? I know. It was
just hanging off the front?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, and the cat, I mean, exactly. And it's like, you see that more and more. I mean, I get, you know, if you're travelling around with your cat, you've got to put it in some sort of thing. But this was just like literally just walking down the street.
Have you seen a cat rucksack? Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Looks like a little spaceship.
Yeah.
And the cat sits in the back. I'm not sure how I feel about
There was an actress who used it, a red carpet. The cat was in the film, so that's the reason the cat was there. But I just think...
Again, I'm used to seeing cats in the countryside where I live in the countryside, and they roam free, they run around, kill the odd mice, bring it home for the family to
it's a gift. It's because they love you.
We were talking about work earlier on, and a lot of people aren't running around looking for work. A new report says only 1 in 10 economically inactive people, that's people who are unemployed, get benefits, and who get benefits must show they're trying to find work now. They must show.
Yeah, I think we've got to be very careful with this story because, it sounds feckless, people on benefits not wanting work. The other side of this story is we need to revamp our job seeker system and think a little bit more about training packages to help people whose lives are not as smooth as everybody else's get into the workplace, preparing them for that. I've got a relative, for example, who is unemployed and has got some mental challenges, mental health issues, and he's not available for the workforce. Once they tried to force him to get to the workforce, and he lost everything and was a sorry sight. So we've got to be very careful of demonising this segment of society, but yes, it is really important that...
It's a very scary thing not to have any work.
I would hate the idea. I mean, I've never been unemployed. I was 15 years as a soldier, 10 years as an athlete. I've been very fortunate to have a corporate career as well. So I don't... And there's this sense of esteem, sense of being part of the community, contributing, looking after your family.
Yeah.
You know, I've had the pleasure of that as a bloke to be able to do that. So it's important.
Well, listen, come back and see us again in 40, 45 minutes' time. Dawn and Chris, for the moment, thank you very much indeed.
Let's get the weather update now with Marco.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We're starting the new working week on a rather cloudy note with outbreaks of rain in places. That will tend to clear to sunshine and showers as we head into the afternoon. This morning we've got some heavy bursts of rain across the south of Scotland into northern parts of England. Across Northern Ireland, the rain tended to clear to give way to some sunshine through the morning, whereas the rain across the south will also move its way away towards the east, allowing skies to brighten from the west. And certainly across southern parts of the UK into the afternoon, plenty of sunshine around. Much of Wales, central and southern England should see plenty in the way of sunshine, lifting temperatures around about 24 Celsius, 75 in Fahrenheit. A few heavy showers though across northern England and southern Scotland this afternoon. Could even be a few thunderstorms here to end the day. So as we end in the afternoon then with a mixture of sunshine and showers across Scotland. Again, one or two of those showers could be on the heavy side, particularly across southern parts of the country, and two across parts of Northern Ireland into the north of England, where again we could see one or two thunderstorms as we go into the early evening on Monday. Whereas across more southern parts of the UK, much of central southern England and Wales ending the day fine. Again, plenty of sunshine around and temperatures at this stage still into the low 20s Celsius. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period on Monday, notice that the showers start to ease for a while, but we will see more showers moving in from the west, certainly across parts of England and Wales, so turning quite wet once again by Tuesday morning here. The best of the clear spells overnight into Tuesday morning reserved for the north and northwest of the UK, and here it will turn quite chilly under those clear spells by Tuesday morning. We could see temperatures down into single figures, whereas towards England and Wales, with the cloud and the showers around, temperatures hold up in the mid to high teens, so quite a humid night here. As for Tuesday, well, quite a cloudy start across England and Wales, further showery bursts of rain in places, that gradually starting to ease as we go through the day, giving way to a mix of sunshine and showers. The showers easing though from the northwest later, so Northern Ireland and the west of Scotland should end the day on quite a sunny note as a ridge of high pressure moves in from the west. And those temperatures responding to the sunshine into the low to mid 20s in places.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In West Dumbartonshire, the A814 is closed each way off the A82 in Dumbarton because of a fire. The M74 in South Lanarkshire is closed northbound from junction 12 at Millbank to 11 at Ponehill after a lorry overturned. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed each way along Barnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. The M62 in Greater Manchester is closed westbound from junction 20 at Rochdale to 19 at Hayward. Overnight roadworks have overrun. Also in Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. In the West Midlands, Hockley Hill is closed southbound at Hockley and Birmingham for an investigation, and in London the A316 is closed southbound from the Waterworks roundabout at Hanworth to junction 1 of the M3 at Sunbury Cross after an accident. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance to win our Super Summer Giveaway. With your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. Which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. A historic day for America.
Joe Biden has dropped out of the presidential race.
After growing pressure about his health, Biden endorses his VP Kamala Harris to take on Trump.
Dozens of key Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, back Kamala Harris, but President Obama keeps quiet about Biden's successor.
Trump and the Republicans waste no time in their attack, calling Biden not fit to serve and to resign from the presidency immediately.
But how have Americans reacted to the newly reshaped presidential race?
Harris polls well against Trump, so I think she has a real shot at winning.
I just don't, like I said, I'm still trying to process this because I'm literally just like, damn.
There isn't a strong alternative, but it's better in my mind. Whoever it is better than Trump.
I was gonna vote for Biden.
In other news, the Prime Minister is set to deal with Britain's fragmented and broken skills system today in a major speech.
The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, promises to crack down on car washes and beauty salons in an immigration blitz.
Good morning. We're starting the new week on a rather cloudy note across the UK with some outbreaks of rain in places. Skies will brighten as we go through the morning and certainly some sunny spells this afternoon, but a few showers around too. I'll have all the details later.
The time, 1 minute past 7 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
This business about the cash-only society and looking for people who are working in this country illegally, Angie says it's just money laundering. The police have been raiding places like this in Manchester. Victoria says, I'm not a fan of Labour, but I totally agree there should be a crackdown on these people dodging paying tax like the rest of us.
Alan says, what will the government do with all of the illegal migrants working at car washes? He suggests two options. One, deport them, or two, give them a British passport.
OK, keep those comments coming in throughout the morning as we switch to America. And Joe Biden has announced he is standing down from the US presidential race. He says it's in the interest of the party and the country.
Well, it's the culmination of weeks of pressure for him to go after a poor debate performance and other gaffes, leading to concerns over his health.
They're just 4 months before Americans go to the polls, so this announcement upends the race for the White House.
Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Mark White. Good to see you this morning, Mark. And this is a seismic decision.
Yes, it is. And now it will be really interesting to see just what happens, whether Kamala Harris can go forward as the Democratic candidate ahead of that convention, that Democratic convention in a month's time. We've not yet, and to be fair, it's not been that long since that decision was made by Joe Biden to step aside and not seek re-election. We have not heard yet any Democratic candidate other than Kamala Harris come forward and declare their interest in seeking election. So everyone thus far, leader-wise, of any note within the party seems to be putting their weight fully behind the vice president. And it's much easier, of course, for the party as a whole to go down this route. It could be very messy if you have an open primary in an expedited manner. Also, of course, the campaign funding issue. A lot of the money that has been raised can now just be transferred to the Kamala Harris campaign. All of that infrastructure in place can neatly switch over to Kamala Harris as well. In a way, it would be much more difficult for a new candidate to start from scratch, to raise the finance, to put the teams in place in such a short period of time.
Leaves them with no choice, doesn't it? I mean, Trump would call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe, but it is actually his delay in making up his mind that's actually robbed the party of time. She is the only one that can actually access the millions of dollars that are on the Harris-Trump ticket.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, actually. I mean, many people had been more than aware of the health and cognitive decline of Joe Biden for some time. We're not just talking about that debate a month ago where it was glaringly obvious to anyone watching just how much he was struggling, but for many months, years before then, people could see there was a significant decline in the health of the president. And should he have been someone who was seeking re-election and being endorsed by the party in this way, or should he have been encouraged to step aside earlier? I think if he had stepped aside earlier, no one really, credibly speaking, would believe that Kamala Harris would be the top name on the ticket going forward.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. We move now to California. And joining us now from there, Democratic strategist and former communications advisor to President Obama, Spencer Critchley. Spencer, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us, Spencer, can you give us an insight at all into this relationship between President Biden and President Obama? How well or not did they get on?
Before I do, I want to decline your kind offer of a promotion. I was an advisor on both Obama campaigns, not to President Obama directly.
Okay.
I have been around both of these men, and I can't claim to be a close friend of either one of them. I just worked on those two campaigns as one of many advisors. I will say, though, it's clear to everybody who has worked around them, as well as people who are more close to them than I am, that they are very good friends. They started out not knowing each other too well during the first campaign once Biden was selected, and they began working together in the White House. But as they worked together, they formed a really deep personal bond, which was perhaps nowhere more obvious than when President Biden's son, Beau, died of brain cancer. And President Obama was just completely broken up by that and completely supportive of his good friend, Joe Biden. That doesn't mean there's never been tension between them, and it appeared to get a little tense during the past few weeks when apparently behind the scenes, former President Obama was among those who were raising serious questions about whether President Biden should go forward with his campaign.
What do you make of Obama's silence around Kamala Harris not endorsed her?
I think that's actually to be expected based on his longtime practice, at least since he's been so prominent. He's aware that his endorsement carries a great deal of weight. And he's always been reluctant, since that's been the case, to endorse any Democratic candidate before something like a primary contest has been settled, because he doesn't want to be in the position, I don't believe, of having endorsed one candidate, say, and then having another one be chosen and diluting the impact of his endorsement and potentially sowing some division within the party.
What do you think finally persuaded Biden to step aside? Because it was as late as Saturday where he was saying he was still very much in the race.
Yes, according to some reporting by some very deeply sourced reporters at Politico magazine, the decision was not finally made until Saturday night. And it apparently was just the accretion of information about the state of the race, including some new polling data, that finally became determinative. And I think from President Biden's point of view, his reluctance is understandable. He's been without exaggeration, one of the most successful presidents in American history. He's accomplished amazing things, including bipartisan legislation, very significant bipartisan legislation, in the midst of an extremely divided political scene. And it often happens that a champion performer wants to keep going, even perhaps past the point when they really should. I think even if he had stayed in the race, it's conceivable he could have won. But at a certain point, when you're looking at polling data, it becomes, at a certain point, difficult to find a path to victory, and you have to decide whether the risk is really worth taking, or should you hand off to somebody else who might face better odds. We can never know the future, of course, but it's all a question of just managing risk.
Spencer, thanks for your take. Really appreciate it. We've got to leave it there. We now go to foreign correspondent Sarah Firth on this one. Sarah, good morning.
Really big twist here in Washington, D.C. in this race for the White House, because, of course, as you've heard from your correspondent there, from your guest, you've had President Biden ending his re-election bid and putting his endorsement behind his Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, here in Washington, D.C., I can tell you the response to that breaking news later on Sunday afternoon was very American. Amongst the Washington elite and political pundit circles, there's this top line of Joe Biden is now a hero for stepping aside and putting the American people first. Let's just take you back a little bit, though, because, Eamonn, as you rightly pointed out, since that presidential debate where Biden took to the stage with former President Trump, really the writing has been on the wall. It was a devastating blow for Joe Biden, and one that he didn't really recover from. And ever since that debate, the voices within his own party, so Democratic voices, Democratic lawmakers, donors, they have been calling for him to step aside. And those calls have been getting louder and louder. And he hasn't been able to use any of the moments since that debate, the NATO summit as an example, to really fight back and show that he is in a position to lead for the next 4 years. And so a couple of days towards the end of last week, you had a lot of rumors here in Washington, D.C. that this was going to happen this weekend. Interestingly, President Biden's team, they really vehemently denied that this was happening. I mean, these were people in his very, very close inner circle with very, very strong denials of those reports that President Biden could be thinking of dropping out of the race. And yet Sunday came around and here we have it. President Biden is stepping aside with that statement that he tweeted out and expected to give an address to the nation later in the week. But look, as I said, the Democratic top line right now is that President Biden is a hero for stepping aside, passing the torch, if you like. All eyes now will be on Kamala Harris and what happens next. But Eamonn and Ellie, it isn't quite that simple, because it took Joe Biden a very, very long time to step aside after that debate. And this now is a party in chaos. None of this was in the plan.
And you know, Sarah, you said the writing was on the wall, and I was thinking, well, no one was reading it to him. No one was telling him what was written on that wall. And I'm thinking particularly his wife and family around him. And I would have thought that surely if someone's really close to you, they're going to take you aside and say, look, it doesn't matter what professionally people are saying, what way this looks, how good it is for the party or not. This is not good for you. We can see. I'm not going to speculate what's wrong with Joe Biden, but there's something wrong. A blind man on a galloping horse could see that this man is not well.
Yes, it was really uncomfortable watching a lot of those major events post-debate, but a lot of questions as well that were raised from that debate, and a lot of anger too amongst a lot in the electorate here. You speak to everyday Americans about the fact that, look, there's no disputing the fact that President Biden has an incredible political record. A lot of people hugely behind his leadership and how he's led the country through some very difficult times. But this is a president who was largely, with his team, kept out of the spotlight in a way that previous presidents had been perhaps scrutinized by the press, speaking live, not speaking with a teleprompter. And so that debate coming around really sent shockwaves through the American public, who for the first time were getting an up-close look at the reality of the situation. And as we said, those voices just growing too loud, those criticisms going too loud, and President Biden finally, it seems, hearing it and deciding to step aside and end his re-election bid. Big question, of course, is now what happens next. They prepare for many more twists and turns in this race for the White House.
Sarah, fascinating listening to you. Great perspective on things there. Appreciate your time this morning. We say goodbye to you. Thank you very much indeed. Sarah Firth there, who is a foreign correspondent. Freddie Gray, he is the deputy editor of The Spectator. And Freddie, you have had a chance to listen there to what all those folk are saying. Where does that leave you on this? How would you analyse it?
Well, I think Sarah got it right there, where she said, the top line now from Democrats, and Democrats are very good at this sort of interdiscipline, between the Democrats on the media and Democrats in the party. They're very good at just hitting the message over and over again. And it will be that Joe Biden is a sort of latter-day George Washington, somebody who had the opportunity to stay in power but decided not to for the greater good. That is cant. That's rubbish. He was bitterly fighting this to the end. He was effectively stabbed repeatedly in the back by all sorts of senior Democratic bigwigs. And you'll also get a lot of this talk about what an amazing presidency Joe Biden has had. I think one of your guests called him the most successful American president. I think that's ludicrous. I mean, Joe Biden, yes, the economy is looking strong at the moment. Joe Biden has passed a lot of legislation, but all that legislation, most of that legislation, if it's not sort of DEI, politically correct stuff, it's been spending, massive, massive government spending, which, of course, is popular among some quarters, but it causes problems for the economy. And you've had a cost of living crisis in America that is alleviating now because the American economy is so strong. But most Americans feel that their country is worse off now than it was 4 years ago. That's one of the reasons Donald Trump is ahead in the polls. He is now behind, or as he leaves office, he is, or as he announces that he will withdraw from the race, he is now behind in every single swing state to Donald Trump. Abroad, look at his international reputation. Afghanistan, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, probably the most important thing he did. Maybe the right decision, but terribly badly handled. Botched evacuation. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of American hardware equipment just effectively handed over to the Taliban. Look at the Middle East. The Middle East is in turmoil. Has he been an effective leader there? No. And look at Ukraine, where he has supported Ukraine, but in a very bitty way, so always just ratcheting up pressure. That war is a long way from being won. I don't see what the great legacy Joe Biden leaves behind it.
In terms of what happens next, how many Democrats actually want to see a Kamala Harris coronation?
Well, it's very interesting. Well, they're all coming out to support her now. A lot of them are. I think you've got over 100 congressmen and women now from the Democrats are endorsing Joe Biden. Jim Clyburn, who's a very important power broker in South Carolina, very important for the African-American vote. They seem to be getting behind Kamala. I think she's pretty unstoppable. I think one of your guests was quite right not to overread Obama not endorsing her, because when he does finally endorse her, it'll be quite powerful. I think she looks unstoppable, but there are certainly concerns about her performance. She has not been a very good vice president, and one of the reasons we've had Joe Biden for so long is because Kamala Harris was so obviously a weak replacement.
But she's not a politician, or she wasn't a politician. She was a lawyer.
She was an attorney general, which is a political position.
So you would call her a politician?
Oh, yeah, I think lifelong. I mean, she had a legal background, but she's a lifelong politician, really. She was in a relationship with Willie Brown, who's a tremendously important politician in California, and he promoted her, and there was a lot of controversy about that he was effectively promoting his girlfriend, pushing her into position. But she then ran this disastrous presidential campaign in 2020, which she pulled out of before Iowa, before the primary process got started in earnest. She's quite good on a debate stage, I think.
I was about to say that. She could prove herself on the debate stage.
That's going to be the really key moment. I think if that debate happens, September 10th was when the second one between Biden and Trump was scheduled. Let's see if that gets stuck to. But I think that will be the make or break of her campaign. If she can, I mean, because people always say presidential debates don't really matter, but that Biden one has shown that they really can. And now I think this one, everyone will be watching Kamala Harris to see if she can do it. She may do well against Trump. Trump is not a good debater. He never has been. He just benefited.
Especially in a situation with a woman
Yes.
He's going to look sexist. He's going to look like a misogynist on this.
Well, there was already that clip of Trump in his cart, you know, talking to someone saying, "Oh, you know, Joe's going to pull out," and then he said something like, "I'm going to have to whip her," you know, "I'm going to have to," like, and it was horrid. And so he does have that sort of old alpha male misogynistic streak that I think will play very badly unless he controls it. So the people around Trump will be desperately trying to get him to sort of rein in his language a little bit. Will he do it? I doubt it.
OK. Freddie, really appreciate that. Speak to you again. Thank you very much indeed. Freddie Grace, the Deputy Editor of The Spectator. Let's have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom.
And 6 people, including 2 children, have died in a collision between Wakefield and Barnsley yesterday afternoon. Emergency services received reports of the accident, which involved a Ford Focus car and a motorcycle shortly before 4 p.m. Superintendent Alan Travis of Wakefield District Police said this is an absolutely tragic incident, which has resulted in the loss of 6 lives.
The 6 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenage boy was shot dead in a park in West London. The teenager, who's believed to be 15, was pronounced dead at the scene after being found suffering from injuries. Work is ongoing to identify and inform the teenage victim's next of kin.
Normal levels of service at GP surgeries will take some time to come back after Friday's global IT outage. The British Medical Association warns GPs need time to catch up on lost work over the weekend after the tech glitch knocked a computer system used by doctors offline.
I mean, computers are a nightmare, whether it's your mobile phone or your desktop or whatever. When they're good, they're very good.
Yeah.
But when they're bad, they are horrid.
Well, it shows, doesn't it, perhaps, that we are just too reliant on them as well. I mean, Friday, I was going into a shop on Friday, couldn't pay because the card system was down. And nobody had any cash, obviously, because no one carries cash anymore.
Well, then it's a good job you weren't going to the Turkish barber or the nail bar.
No, well, I never have any cash on me. Yeah.
Whatever. And you had to
can I chip in? I remember losing my phone recently, and I kept on reaching for my phone to call people to tell them I'd lost my phone, and then realising, of course, I couldn't because I didn't have my phone.
Yeah.
But it took me a few hours of doing that to realise that it had actually gone.
Yeah, we're all so addicted, aren't we?
But the other thing is, how many phone numbers do you know? I know my phone number. I know my mother's phone number. My mother's dead, so that's no good to anybody. You know, but outside that, I don't know anyone else's phone number.
Yeah.
I only know mine and my old parents' old one. Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness, and I'll tell you, and recently I've had problems with my phone. And when your numbers go, you are lost. You're absolutely lost.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I started out in journalism, everything was written down. And I could remember, like, say it was your phone number, I would have had something beside it, like, you know, Big Freddie, just call him Freddie or whatever, you know, and you would remember, you could visually imagine or remember what the number looked like in the book.
Yeah.
Now you've got no visual record to go by.
You don't need to know it, do you? Yeah.
I like the way
you do need to know it.
Well, you don't. Well, it's all there on your phone.
You turn me into a gangster source. I like Big Freddie.
Big Freddie.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that
very
nickname.
good. Still to come, your chance to grab, the whole lot of this, £30,000 in, it's not in cash, because that would be illegal, wouldn't it? It'll come in...
I think you'll get a bank transfer,
Bank transfer.
But it is tax-free, so it's the whole lot, isn't it?
Yes, it's all legit, believe me, and it could be yours. Have a go.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Charles was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
I'm Charles. I won £18,000 cash. It was just amazing, and as soon as it goes into your bank account, it just changed. It's a life-changing thing.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good. Good luck to you with that. Still to come on our programme between 9 and 9:30.
The Prime Minister is set to deal with Britain's fragmented and broken skills system today in a major speech. Catherine Forster is going to have the latest on that for us.
Yeah, well, the thing, if the system's broken, who broke it? Who broke it in the first place? Politicians, that's what I would say. There's a very formidable politician, very capable politician, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. She's going to crack down on car washes, beauty salons, Turkish barbers, you name it, the ones that take cash and only cash. Is it all a way of laundering people and money and whatever? And, I mean, for instance, you can't buy a kebab. You can't buy a kebab in London.
Unless you've got cash.
Unless you've got cash for it. And I've been caught out on that a couple of times, I can tell you. This is Breakfast. We'll be serving you up more with Eamonn and Ellie after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions
That raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return.
and a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. The time is 27 minutes past 7 and the Prime Minister is launching a new training programme aimed at sharpening the country's workforce in line with its economic needs.
Skills England is aimed at addressing fragmented skills training system in Britain. It'll bring closer the government, businesses, unions and providers to address the skills gap. It will collaborate with the Migration Advisory Committee to reduce reliance on overseas workers by improving homegrown skills. Well, good luck with that. Let's hear...
quite a big task, isn't it?
What
Yes.
a lot of nonsense, all of it. GB News political correspondent Catherine Foster, tell us more about this nonsense.
Yes, good morning to both of you. Yeah, so the new Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, will be making a speech later this morning on Skills. Skills England, as it's going to be known. They're setting up this body that will bring together different local government, central government, trade unions, skills providers to assess where the skills gaps are. Now, we know that there's plenty of them. The skills gap has supposedly doubled between 2017 and 2022. We've got half of young people going to university coming out with huge debts, and the graduate jobs are simply not there for all of them. Meanwhile, although there are apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships, they're not that easy to get. They're very much in demand. They're very, very competitive, and businesses say that lots of young people coming through the education system simply do not have the skills that they need. So this is being set up, but this is going to take time, and this is something that has been evident for a long time. Frankly, simply funneling more and more people into university is not necessarily how you provide businesses with what they need. And of course, businesses were also able to get lots of cheap labour from Europe for a long time, which meant that they didn't have to really invest in skills particularly either. So this is going to take a long time, but they want to seem to be moving on this, and also saying that this is opportunity everywhere, as they like to say, is going to be part of how they create growth. Of course, they need to get growth quickly, and that is not something that you can just magic up.
7 is the time, Catherine. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, royal biographer Angela Levin. Next here on GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed along Barnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. In Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. Horse Street is also closed. In Leicestershire, the A42 is partly blocked southbound between junctions 14 and 13 from Castle Donington to Ashby de la Zouche, causing queues. In the West Midlands, Hockley Hill at Hockley and Birmingham is closed southbound for investigation. The M25 from Hertfordshire into Buckinghamshire is blocked anti-clockwise, while there's an accident between junctions 17 and 16 from Maple Cross to the M40. The queues from junction 20 at Kings Langley. And in London, the A316 is closed southbound from the Waterworks roundabout at Hanworth to junction 1 of the M3 at Sunbury Cross after an accident causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Go and get another glass of that bubbly, you've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
At
the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. This is absolutely fascinating this morning. Prince Philip has been named in a secret FBI document linking him to the Profumo sex scandal. Really interesting stuff, isn't it? Angela Levin, royal biographer, joins us now. What do you make of it, Angela?
Well, I think it's absolutely amazing. At first you think, well, this is nonsense, and then you realise that the head of FBI sent a cable to US Embassy in London.
You're talking about Edgar Hoover here, aren't you?
Yes, I'm talking about him. 60 years ago, and it's hung around, and people have been trying to get the freedom of inquest request, and they've just released it now. I think that's absolutely astonishing. He's supposed to have had, or he may have had, some link with Christine Keeler and Mandy Rice Davies. Christine Keeler was a model plus some, and
a teenager.
Yes.
Yes, so she was having this affair with the politician John Profumo.
Yes.
At the same time, she was having an affair
with a Russian
diplomat.
Yes, that's right. And he was involved with the army and stuff. So it nearly brought down the Macmillan thing. And I think that that's very, very disturbing to think that a whole political empire could actually go down because of that sort of thing. So it's we have to wait and see what happens. But there, apparently, though, that the Crown series actually did a lot about this, about Prince Philip, but nobody took much notice. But now they wonder where the heaviness goes and what has happened. But they also say that the person who was involved with it most was Stephen Ward, who was an osteopath, and he organised things very much for the girls and actually lived next door to me. I never met him. It was a long time ago, but it was his house next door to me. I had very much interest in what went in and out there. Yes, so it sounds a dreadful scandal, but it is it is a possibility. But when you had the head of FBI dealing with it, you take it a bit more seriously, I think.
Yeah. Prince George, what do you want? This is William's son, George. Tell us about him.
Well, he's 11 today.
Happy birthday,
Yes.
George.
We haven't had the picture. I hope that there'll be another picture by his mother.
Surely.
But she usually sends it in later in the day nowadays.
Yeah.
So he'll be 11. And actually, when he gets to 12, he can't fly in the same plane as his father because you can't have an heir to the throne in the same plane as the person who is running. And so I think that's really sad. So he's got to enjoy it very much. He's going to have two parties, one in London with the family and friends, and then a big one later when he can have all his school friends and things like that. What's interesting about him is that he has been very, very shy, and Charlotte sort of overwhelmed him because she's amazing for her age and the way she behaves. But I think now he's coming out of that shell and he's much more at ease with himself, and he loves anything to do with sport. We saw him with his dad.
At the Euros.
Yes, and Aston Villa, he and his dad are there, and they're cheering away and hugging. And I think that's amazing to see, because they wouldn't do it in front of the late Queen, because she didn't like that sort of behaviour. But his father doesn't care. William loves him. And I think they're a great comfort to each other in these difficult times.
They're going to have a good season ahead, so I would predict with Aston Villa. So he is shy, or was shy, and then Princess Charlotte, very responsible, sees herself as, maybe better than the boys. And
she's one for discipline, isn't she? She tells them what's what.
Well, she knows how to behave.
What's the junior?
Louis. Oh, I've got a soft spot for Louis.
Yes, but what's interesting is that she's the one who tells Louis off. But now I've seen that George is telling him how to behave. When they were on the balcony, turn round.
Yes.
You know, and Louis listened to him. Whereas I think that's quite interesting because before he didn't do that. He might not have even noticed it because he was, you know, much too nervous about what was going on. But now he's actually much more confident. And you see, when he walked with his father for the football match, he walked, you know, like his father. And what's lovely, I think, is that he's a mini-me of his dad, isn't he? Because when you watch them with the football, the first football I've watched, really, for more than about 5 minutes, wanted to see his movements. You know, they both went like that together. They both went like that together. They had all those sort of things.
Mannerisms.
Their mannerisms, and they just were very relaxed with it. And I thought that was really lovely.
Lovely. You've been really lovely, as per usual, Angela. We've got to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much indeed. And then we come back with the papers in the company of Chris Sakabusi and Dawn Neeson. See you after this.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, time for the best part of the show, Our Greatest Britain, where we share amazing people who do amazing things. And this week, that is Dr. Leo Cheng and Reverend Hilary Cheng.
Well, Dr. Chen regularly serves as a volunteer surgeon aboard the Mercy ships in West Africa and has recently served his 17th mission aboard the ships. He volunteers with his wife, Reverend Hilary Cheng, a Methodist minister in the UK.
Thank you for joining us, and what a privilege. So just briefly explain, what are Mercy ships?
Well, Mercy ships provide world-class surgery on the ship, and the ship then sail to these poorest of the poor country because there's no infrastructure to get road or rail there. And we offer free surgery and also education, training of medical staff, and partner with the local or the host nation to build up their surgical and anaesthetic services.
So how long have you been travelling West Africa? You go on all these different ships, different ports, and you treat the needy and the vulnerable. How long have you both been doing this?
20 years.
20 years?
Just over 20 years.
And you take the time to do this out of your own holiday from work. Why do you do it?
Well, because I'm indebted to the education in this country with all the qualification I get. And NHS is great. I love the NHS because without NHS, we see cases that we see in the low-income country. And I want to make use of my hand to help those people who have no way of helping themselves. Because the tumours, the deformities, not just a physical ailment, but it's being ostracised and die early, commit suicide because they've been ostracised by their family.
When you're on the ship, you are seeing the very worst that the country can offer. I find it a great privilege to work alongside these people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Breakfast. We're going through the papers now with former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, and Olympian Chris Akabusi. Morning, you two.
Good morning.
And Dawn, let's start with you, and I think it's going to be welcome news for many people. This is car washes, parts of the beauty sector, those places that take cash. It's going to be part of an immigration crackdown.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got to do something, haven't we? This is Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announcing over the weekend that they are going to divert the... she was shocked to learn there was 1,000 civil servants working on the Rwanda plan, which Labour have now scrapped. She's going to divert those civil servants to working on a returns and enforcement unit, cracking down in particular on nail bars and car washes, where a lot of migrants work illegally, obviously. They also think this is one way that they are going to tackle the immigration and people coming over in the small boats, which we have seen 2,043 crossing the Channel since Labour came to office just over a fortnight ago. But, I mean, will this work? I mean, yes, you are going to stop a lot of people working illegally in those premises, and in particular with the nail bars, Ellie, a lot of sex-trafficked women. So that is a very, very good thing. However, it's not going to stop the small boats. And I'm sorry, if Yvette Cooper thinks it's going to have any impact at all on the criminal gangs who are still trafficking human misery across the Channel, it's not going to do that.
But at least if it tackles the black market, then people crossing the Channel on small boats would feel as though, well, a job isn't guaranteed if you can't go into these car washes and nail salons.
Well, a lot of them will go into crime in any case, won't they? So, I mean, it's sort of mainly the people that work in these places aren't the people coming across in the small boats. We know what areas they go into. I mean, the nail bars in particular, as a woman, I find, because you always look at the women that work in those places and you think many of them are not there through choice.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, I mean, Keir Starmer's going, I'm going to smash the criminal gangs. And it's like, well, it's going to tackle your local nail bar. So I don't think it's going to have the effect on the boat crossings that they want it to do.
It's all part of the jigsaw, though, isn't it, Chris?
Well, we've got to do something. You know, I'm loath to sort of have a go at the new government just yet. Let's see the outcomes of some of the things that they are doing. Maybe 6 months down the road, you can say, you tried that, it's not working.
But these people who set these places up, Chris, I mean, that's not an easy thing, and yet they set up this network which is cash only. They ferry people into the country who may not be supposed to be here legally. And they get this business, and they get these shops that just open up.
Yeah, some of these businesses have been established for quite a while, and basically they're just filtering through the country. So they might start off in London, and then, like any other business, they grow and expand, and they find their new locations across the country. And yeah, we do know that there is a black market. A whole variety of...
They want to track... One other area they want to look at is the delivery drivers, you know, like working for the companies that deliver your food. How many of them are here working legally?
How many of them have a driving licence?
Well, yeah, not many, I bet.
None. Everybody who delivers on one of these services have an L plate on their motorbike.
Oh, really?
And they are lethal as well. They really are lethal.
Right. What was I going to say to you? Dementia. Chris, record numbers of people have received a dementia diagnosis.
Yeah, so a little bit confusing initially, the story, because it said that we've not reached pre-pandemic levels of dementia, and a story that's been in the Times is trying to encourage us to go and get more testing. Having said that, the record numbers or levels have been reached, so I'm not quite sure about the contrary there. But I do understand that dementia is something that is going to be impacting us more and more as our demographic ages. You know, I'm part of the baby boomer age group, and our group of people have worked very, very hard, not so much in a manual labour like our forefathers did, but, you know, with our brain capacity, our brain power, working longer and harder, all sort of things that affect your mental capacity, and also the fact is that we are aging, so dementia is going to become more and more popular. So what this Spurge out is saying that friends and relatives, you know, look at your older population. Well, I think, in a way, that might be you, might be me, Eamonn. We might be moving into that age group where all of a sudden we're being more and more forgetful, we're confused with our language, we are just not as agile as we used to be, and get an early diagnosis, because with an earlier diagnosis, you can get the right social care, right support. and ensure
it's so important. But the thing is that the early signs are all the signs of getting older in any case, aren't they? It's like, you know, you walk into a room and you go, what did I come in here for?
Absolutely.
And you have to retrace your steps. And it's like, I do it all the time, forgetting people's names, you know, names of people you've known for years. And it's like, oh, hi, how are you? But I hope that's just getting older rather than something horrible going on.
Well, my daughters are very kind to me and say, no, Papa, your mind is you've got just too much going on and you try to do too many things at once. And so they've been very kind
that
to me.
old excuse, yeah.
It is the cruelest disease, though. Anybody who's affected by dementia or their
horrific.
family affected
To
by
lose
it. It's
someone in
just
that way.
horrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chris, what chances does Great Britain have in the Olympics, which are now, 4 days away, Friday night?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the Olympics. In particular, my sport, track and field athletics, and we've got some real lovely young stars coming up. Keely Hodgkinson just broke the British record 800 again.
She was amazing. I mean, what a run. Oh, my God, that woman.
Yeah, exactly, and then in the 400 as well. Matthew Hudson-Smith, you know, Kane smashed the 44-second barrier. And, you know, you can see these guys are really, really, really getting ready for the Olympic Games. So, Matthew Hudson-Smith, Keely Hodgkinson. I'm looking forward to the men's 4x4. We've got, which is, again, an event that I was lucky to do.
To excel in.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah. And it's just great to see these young, hungry British lions. The women's 100 metres looks good again. Dale Anita and... oh, gosh, forgive me. I forgot her name now. And then Molly Chowdhury in the pole vault. You know, we've got... It's really good to see that our youngsters are really coming good at this time, just 4 weeks away. Not 4 weeks, 4 days away
4 days,
from the
Chris.
Olympic Games. So, yeah, British athletics is on the up. They're targeting 50 medals. We got 60 plus in 2012, 67 in 2016. So, but they're targeting 50 medals across the board in the British Olympic team. So, Team GB, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see.
More competition in Strictly Dawn, and
Lord.
a lot of this coming out in a bad way.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The real curse of Strictly, I think we're actually learning now, is what goes on behind the scenes, allegedly. We have had, I think, 2 people that have had to step down or been let go from Strictly over allegations of bullying and very harsh training regimes, as we should say. This is the latest one. This is a chap called Will Bailey, who was partnered with Jeanette Manrara. He's a Paralympian, ironically, and he says he was forced to do a particular jump off of a chair, which tore the ligaments in his legs and has left him as an athlete with a life-changing issue. And he is implying that he was forced to do this jump. He didn't want to. His agent didn't want to. And Jeanette was saying, well, you're rubbish, you need to practice. So, again, it's what's going on behind the scenes at Strictly. And you do wonder how many years it's been going now? 20-odd years. Whether it will survive. I mean, can it survive all this background stuff?
So have you been asked to do Strictly?
No way. I've got the rhythm of the plank. It would be dreadful. I would be one that someone would need to push and kick and really train hard. So I understand if you lumber with someone like me, the training regime is going to be really hard because I'm so rubbish.
Much worse. You can see how it's transformed the lives of politicians or former politicians. I bet you Mel Stride's been asked. I bet you he'll be on the list.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The shadow working pension secretary. Strictly, would you, Mel?
Sorry, am I on, Eamonn? Sorry, what's the question? Would it go on Strictly Come Dancing?
Yeah, have you been asked?
The answer to that would be... no, I haven't. I think that would inflict undue and unfair pain on the British public if that was to happen. So I haven't been asked, and I don't think it's likely to happen. I have no rhythm whatsoever when it comes to dancing, I'm afraid.
Could I ask you instead about the American presidential race and the way that's shaping up and your take on it since President Biden has withdrawn?
Well, these are clearly extraordinary times, Eamonn. I don't think I'm going to get too much into the ins and outs of American politics. That's a matter for the British people. But I do actually feel on a personal level quite sorry for Joe Biden, actually. My thoughts are with him, with Jill and with his family. I think to go through what he's gone through in such a public way right across the world is quite a tough thing to have experienced. But, you know, sometimes that's the way democracy works. And the important thing is there will be another candidate in place come the presidential election, and democracy will take its turn as it does as normal in the United States.
Mel, you've just ruled out Strictly Come Dancing. Will you be running for Tory leadership instead?
I haven't ruled that out, and I haven't ruled it in. We don't yet know what the contest holds. The party board is going to come forward shortly, I think, with the process, and I will finally take a decision at that time. Some colleagues have been speaking to me about that possibility, and it's something that I'm weighing up.
Is it something that you're seriously considering?
Well, yes, in the sense that I do think the party needs to be brought together. I think the parliamentary party needs to unite. I think that's the first base on what will be quite a long road to regaining our position and trust and a sense of competence with the British electorate. And I think that we need to have the right person to do that. But as I say, there are many very good candidates who have already effectively announced, and I'll be taking my decision fairly shortly.
Yeah. Maybe there's a time to announce that you'd be taking part, and you say it'll be a long road for that recovery. What do you think the party has to do? The basic things that the party has to get right before it's electable again?
So I think that is another way, Eamonn, of saying where do we go wrong? And I think there are many answers to that question, but I think there are two things in particular. One is a loss of trust with the British electorate, and the second one was our reputation for competence and delivery. And I think to answer your question as to how we get that back, the first base is going to be to unite as a party, and we need a leader that's going to bring people together, the different traditions within the Conservative Party. That is eminently achievable with the right approach, lots of listening, lots of working together as a parliamentary party. And the second thing we've got to do is then translate that into the right programme to offer the British people. And there I think we draw more widely than just the parliamentary party, but also into our membership and the wider Conservative family. And I think if we do those things, I'm confident that we can actually get back potentially in a single term. And in fact, if you were interviewing me after the 2019 general election and I was a Labour MP, heaven forbid, I would be saying that all looked pretty much lost. You know, worst result since the 1930s. How can we possibly come back in a single term? I think after the Hartlepool by-election loss, there was rumours that Keir Starmer himself even considered standing down at that time. So what I think that shows you is there are no rules in politics. There are no reasons why, if we do the right things and we do it in a methodical, careful, level-headed way, come together, that we can't actually prevail even within a single term.
Yvette Cooper, our new Home Secretary, has said she's shocked to find out that there were 1,000 civil servants working on the Rwanda plan, a plan that you didn't even give a chance. Rishi Sunak called the general election at the start of July, when those first Rwanda flights were booked for the end of July. In fact, this week, didn't even give that plan a chance to get those planes off the ground. It's a complete waste of money and resources, isn't it? Do you have regrets over that?
Well, no, not at all. The reason why it's a waste of money and resources is the fact that we've had a change of government, and this government, in fact, without even going to Parliament about it, has decided to scrap the entire scheme. Look, what we know very clearly is that what's required to stop small boats and people sadly perishing in those cold, dark waters of the Channel is to have an effective deterrent. Now, we saw it in the agreement we had with Albania, the returns agreement. Once that was in place, there was over 90% reduction in Albanians coming to our shores. Even the mere thought of the Rwanda scheme meant that people were delaying their journey over from the continent, in fact waiting for a Labour government in the hope that they would do exactly what they have done, which is to take that deterrent away. But look, they've come out with their latest plan, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you very much indeed. Mel Stride, who won't be taking part in Strictly, but may be running for the leadership of the Conservative Party. Back after this.
the latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed each way along Barnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. In Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. Black Horse Street is also closed. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between junctions 18 and 17 from the Middlewich and Holmes Chapel turn to Sandbach. In Leicestershire on the A42, the inside lane's closed southbound between junctions 14 and 13 from Castle Donington to Ashby de la Zouch, causing queues. In the West Midlands, Hockley Hill in Birmingham's closed southbound for an investigation. The M25 from Hertfordshire into Buckinghamshire down to a single lane anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 17 and 16 from Maple Cross to the M40, causing queues. And in Surrey on the A316, the southbound exit to the M3 at Sunbury Cross is closed after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far and it could be yours. Charles was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
I'm Charles. I won £18,000 cash. It was just amazing, and as soon as it goes into your bank account, it just changed. It's a life-changing thing.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this, an historic day for the USA.
Joe Biden drops out of the presidential race.
After growing pressure about his health, Biden endorses Vice President Kamala Harris to take on Trump.
Dozens of key Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, back Kamala Harris, but President Obama keeps quiet about who should be Biden's successor.
Trump and Republicans waste no time pivoting their attack, calling Biden not fit to serve and to resign the presidency immediately.
But how have Americans reacted to the newly reshaped presidential race?
Harris polls well against Trump, so I think she has a real shot at winning.
I just don't, like I said, I'm still trying to process this because I'm literally just like, damn.
There isn't a strong alternative, but it's better in my mind. Whoever it is better than Trump.
I was gonna vote for Biden.
In other news, the Prime Minister is set to deal with Britain's what he calls fragmented and broken skills system in a major speech today.
And Home Secretary Yvette Cooper promises to crack down on car washes and beauty salons in an immigration blitz.
Good morning. We're starting the new week on a rather cloudy note across the UK with some outbreaks of rain in places. Skies will brighten as we go through the morning and certainly some sunny spells this afternoon, but a few showers around too. I'll have all the details later.
1 minute past 8 o'clock on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
President Joe Biden has announced he's standing down from the presidential race, saying it's in the interest of his party and his country.
Well, it comes just 4 months before Americans go to the polls, upending the race for the White House.
And it follows weeks of intense pressure from fellow Democrats after a faltering debate performance against Donald Trump at the end of June.
Well, our political correspondent Olivia Utley has more.
Look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom.
When Joe Biden first became president back in 2020, nobody, not even he, thought he would stand for a second term. He had been a well-liked Vice President to Barack Obama, but at 78, the received wisdom was that he was simply too old to stick around for 8 more years.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while.
When he won the Democratic nomination for the 2024 election back in March of this year, there were some raised eyebrows. But by and large, Democrats kept their counsel.
Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
That is, until the campaign began in earnest. Before long, it became clear to many that Joe Biden's mental faculties had severely declined since he first ran for president.
Mr. President, thank you.
He had always been gaffe-prone, but now the blunders were coming thick and fast.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping. The percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Again and again, he misspoke on the campaign trail, with mistakes ranging from the embarrassing.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
To the diplomatically disastrous.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response.
Questions started to be raised around the world.
They're implying that President Biden is senile. Is he?
Closer to home, the Trump team rubbed their hands together with glee.
Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president.
But Biden, who by this point would only take advice from a very small circle of close associates, was defiant.
I'm staying in the race. I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down.
One by one, however, the senior Democrats around Biden, from Barack Obama to Nancy Pelosi, privately told the president that the game was up. And eventually, he and his team accepted that the moment had come to pull out of the race. Kamala Harris will now take his place as the only Democrat able to access the millions of dollars of donations raised under the Biden-Harris ticket. Will she have what it takes to defeat the electoral storm that is Donald Trump? We will find out soon enough. Olivia Utley, GB News.
Well, joining us now is our GB News reporter, Mark White. Good to see you this morning, Mark. And this decision, seismic decision, has plunged the presidential race into pretty much unprecedented territory.
Yes, it has, and many would say there's no need for it ever to have got to this stage had people being brave enough to confront Joe Biden about what was glaringly obvious for many people for a long period of time, not just since that disastrous debate a month ago, but long before that. It was very clear to anybody who watches these things that he was in failing health and cognitive decline. Now we are at where we're at. It's very interesting that we've had lots of senior Democrats coming out in recent hours praising Joe Biden and you know, praising his bravery and his statesmanlike decision to decide to step aside and not to seek re-election. Interestingly, many of those are the same voices that have been calling for him to go in recent days and weeks, but hey, that's politics for you. What we know is that this coming Wednesday, the Electoral Committee of the Democratic National Convention will be meeting to discuss the way forward. It's widely believed that Kamala Harris will become the Democratic nominee. There's no one so far, at least, that has put their hat in the ring, and you know, she has had, we understand, something like 500 endorsements from leading Democrats just since this announcement by Joe Biden yesterday. So if that is the case, she goes forward as the candidate. She is someone that has had a track record as a vice president, which is not all that great, to say the least. But she will have the full force of the party machine behind her, many millions of pounds of campaign funding, all the advice, strategic and otherwise, that she needs to fight, hopefully, from the Democrats' point of view, an effective campaign against President Trump.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let's now speak to lecturer in US political history at the University of Liverpool. We say good morning to Dr. Cheryl Hodson.
Good morning.
Good morning. Very good to have you on board this morning. So the whole American situation, Biden stepping down, who will fill the void, whatever. What do you make of what's going on?
Well, I think that neither of the two candidates are particularly popular with the American public. And I do think that after the debate, maybe not most, many Americans felt that they would rather have anyone but the two that are on the stage. So I don't think Trump is particularly popular, and Biden wasn't popular. Now, for most of Biden's administration, Kamala Harris had been less popular than him, but since his very poor performance in the debate, her popularity seems to have risen vis-a-vis Biden, which wasn't, you know, it's more that his popularity came down. But it's quite an undignified exit, I think, that Biden's made. He's left it very late. He says it's for the good of the party and the country, but if we look to history, we can see in 1796, the first president of the Republic, George Washington, stepped away after 2 terms because he emphasized overcoming division, making sure that democracy survived, the unity of the Republic. And that kind of rhetoric has been used by Biden, but in fact, he was really pushed away, or he really was kind of forced to step away because of the division that developed in his own party. You know, his own incapacity, the evidence of his cognitive decline had really become evident during the debate. It really was just undeniable anymore. It had been obvious to many people for a long time. But after the debate with Trump, with all the glitches and all the poor performance, he lost a lot of support within his party. I thought personally that it would really depend on where Obama felt like he would be the kind of key decision maker in this. And then after Trump's assassination attempt, or the attempt on Trump's life, I do think that the bullet that left that gun was going to either end Trump's life or it was going to end Biden's political career. And it turned out to be the latter, partly because of Trump's own response to the assassination, his kind of fist pump, his kind of the strength and the courage that he showed in response to the attempt on his life. And then the division in the Democratic Party really kind of took over. So Nancy Pelosi kind of started to make noises about maybe Biden should go. And when Obama came out and questioned his capacity to govern, I think that's really when the kind of writing was on the wall. So, and that was in response, I think, to the polls that showed a drop in support for Biden.
Dr.
And
Hudson,
also
sorry, can I just go back and talk about Kamala Harris again? And the fact that maybe you could look at the last 4 years as a learning curve for her. I mean, the way she's been billed, the bar has been set so low for her, she probably is exceeding expectations already. Would you agree?
I don't know. When she was picked in 2020 for the vice presidency, she was probably the worst candidate of all of those that had stood, for the Democratic nomination. She'd had a lot of conflict with Biden. She'd performed badly in the debates. And during Biden's administration, she's really not done very well with the public. She doesn't seem to communicate very well. She has made a number of gaffes, not just in her speech, but also in her policy. And she is associated with chaos on the southern border. So I think a lot of people, and this is going to be a key issue of immigration in the US, as it has been in our own election. So I think that her position is kind of mixed in that she doesn't have a great record. She's not a great candidate or a good communicator.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, she isn't Biden. And I think a lot of people are just really relieved not to have Biden as the candidate anymore.
OK. We've got to leave it there, Dr. Hudson. Dr. Cheryl Hudson from the University of Liverpool, thank you very much indeed for your analysis. Appreciated. Thank you.
Just coming up to 14 minutes past 8, let's take a look at some other stories coming to the newsroom this morning.
6 people, including 2 children, have died in a collision which happened between Wakefield and Barnsley yesterday afternoon. Emergency services received reports of the incident, which involved a Ford Focus and a motorcycle shortly before 4 o'clock.
The Superintendent Alan Travis of Wakefield District Police said that it's an absolutely tragic incident which has resulted in the loss of 6 lives.
6 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenage boy was shot dead in a park in West London.
The teenager, believed to have been aged 15, was pronounced dead at the scene after being found suffering from injuries by emergency services. Work is now ongoing to identify and inform the teenager's family.
Normal levels of service at surgeries for GPs will take some time to come back after Friday's IT outage. The British Medical Association warns GPs need time to catch up on lost work after the tech glitch knocked a computer system used by doctors offline.
Let's have a look at the weather now with Marco.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We're starting the new working week on a rather cloudy note with outbreaks of rain in places. That will tend to clear to sunshine and showers as we head into the afternoon. This morning we've got some heavy bursts of rain across the south of Scotland into northern parts of England. Across Northern Ireland, the rain tended to clear to give way to some sunshine through the morning, whereas the rain across the south will also move its way away towards the east, allowing skies to brighten from the west. And certainly across southern parts of the UK into the afternoon, plenty of sunshine around. Much of Wales, central and southern England should see plenty in the way of sunshine, lifting temperatures around about 24 Celsius, 75 in Fahrenheit. A few heavy showers though across northern England and southern Scotland this afternoon. Could even be a few thunderstorms here to end the day. So as we end in the afternoon then with a mixture of sunshine and showers across Scotland. Again, 1 or 2 of those showers could be on the heavy side, particularly across southern parts of the country, and 2 across parts of Northern Ireland into the north of England, where again we could see 1 or 2 thunderstorms as we go into the early evening on Monday. Whereas across more southern parts of the UK, much of central southern England and Wales ending the day fine. Again, plenty of sunshine around and temperatures at this stage still into the low 20s Celsius. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period on Monday, Notice though the showers start to ease for a while, but we will see more showers moving in from the west, certainly across parts of England and Wales, so turning quite wet once again by Tuesday morning here. The best of the clear spells overnight into Tuesday morning reserved for the north and northwest of the UK, and here it will turn quite chilly under those clear spells by Tuesday morning. We could see temperatures down into single figures, whereas towards England and Wales, with the cloud and the showers around, temperatures hold up in the mid to high teens, so quite a humid night here. As for Tuesday, well, quite a cloudy start across England and Wales, further showery bursts of rain in places. That gradually starting to ease as we go through the day, giving way to a mix of sunshine and showers. The showers easing though from the northwest later, so Northern Ireland and the west of Scotland should end the day on quite a sunny note as a ridge of high pressure moves in from the west. Those temperatures responding to the sunshine into the low to mid 20s in places.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, some good news for you this morning. There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win £30,000 in the Great British Giveaway. It's actually our biggest cash prize of the year so far.
OK, and here's how you could win it.
Don't miss your chance to win our Super Summer Giveaway. With your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. Which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Yeah, still to come. We've got a weekend of violence in Dublin. All of this is over immigration. We discussed it on the programme yesterday, and it struck a chord with many of you living in England in particular. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to go to Dublin, see what the latest is right after this. Don't go away.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Now, the last time we spoke, we always talk about the topic of gender and your transition. So talk to me about now, though. What you've done is you've created a comic book about your life and about your transition to tell us things that perhaps the press and media don't talk about.
Yes, so throughout the years I have always been persuaded to write a book, but I was never ready to disclose so much. And I've been working this beautiful comic book. I brought you a little copy. It's here. You can have a look into it later, where I'm detailing past experiences, growing up in Brazil and then moving to this country, and my struggles, the struggles that I had to go through to become the woman that I'm today. I'm a woman. I'm not a biological woman, but I am a woman. I just cannot have babies because I don't have the female organs. But I'm a woman inside out, therefore I use the female toilet. But what has been going on around, there are a lot of people, they regard themselves as being transgender when they're actually not. They don't have any psychological help, they don't have any medical help. They just wear female clothes and makeup and they call themselves female. And they're the ones using female spaces and take advantage of that. And that is what should stop and be controlled.
But that's the problem, isn't it? So what do you do to stop that? I mean, the suggestion was a third extra space. How would you feel about a third extra space where, you know, this is where if somebody is trans or any of those other things can use rather than using the female toilet?
I don't think that would work, actually, because these people that regard those people that regard themselves as being females in their minds, they still would use the female toilet.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm just looking at disruption in Ireland over these migration and immigration disturbances and more disturbances. Dundalk last night. Yesterday we were talking about protesters in Dublin who attacked police, set vehicles on fire at a site designated to house asylum seekers. So this was a former factory. Let's go to Irish commentator Malachy Steenson on this one this morning. Malachy, good morning to you. Just trying to gauge how serious this is or how this is developing.
Good morning, Eamonn and Ellie. Many thanks for having me on. This is a situation in Ireland that's been developing probably since November 2022, when the government here decided to abandon all planning legislation, allow office buildings to be turned into asylum centres, mainly for single males in the 18 to 30 kind of category, and impose those centres into mainly working class communities which are already devoid of any real services and are abandoned in general by the political and NGO class. And we have in Ireland now a country that's run by politicians who are more interested in what their European masters think of them than they are about the Irish people. We've a political and NGO class which is beholden to woke liberalism. And we have, you wouldn't believe, in this country, 33,000 NGOs who receive 6.5 billion euro per year and employ around 200,000 people to lobby government. And that's what they mainly do.
Malachy, how does this happen? We've got an audience here yesterday, over the weekend and today, who are looking at this and saying this wouldn't be allowed to happen in England. And these politicians, they speak separately from people. People feel totally detached on this, that they have no say in this whatsoever. How does this situation come about that the politicians are so out of touch?
There's a total disconnect between the Irish political class and ordinary people. If you look at what happened last week, for instance, on Monday. Now, the protest in Coolock has been going on. There's been people sitting outside that protest and in a camp for 3.5 months with no violence, no difficulties, and the police moved in at 3:30 on Monday morning and moved them out. And that led to some difficulties during the day, and there was a JCB digger burnt out. But what exacerbated the situation was that the Gardaí, and the people who are doing what they call rioting, and you come from the north, Eamonn, the rioting in Dublin, wouldn't even merit the name riot in Belfast. But they brought in the public order unit, riot police, to attack young teenagers, basically. And during the course of that, they sprayed a 78-year-old man directly in the face, an elderly woman on crutches. And when myself and 3 other recently elected councillors in the Dublin area approached the police lines on Monday evening to try and de-escalate the situation, we were pepper sprayed in the face. And they refused to discuss or de-escalate it. Now, on Friday night, the people of Coolock, almost 2,000 of them, came out in a protest, a very peaceful protest, no difficulties whatsoever. But that wasn't the narrative that the state wanted. So after that protest, they sent in the riot squad again to attack young lads. We saw the same yesterday in Dundalk, where a 13-year-old child was beaten to the ground by the public order unit.
Right, Malachy, I get the picture. Tell me what this has done. I mean, Ireland went from a conservative country to quite a liberal country, and now this is sort of biting them on the backside now. A fifth, 20-odd% of people in Ireland no longer identify with being Irish, which suggests a lot of them aren't from Ireland in the first place. Who opened up the doors? Why were the doors opened up so generously to migrants?
Well, we've gone from a population of 3.5 million to a population of over almost 5.5 million now, without building any infrastructure to deal with that. We have a shortage of hospitals, we have a shortage of schools, but most particularly we have a shortage of housing. We have 14,000 people in emergency accommodation, Irish nationals in emergency accommodation. The average price for a new house in this country now is about 450,000, which Dublin City Council somehow thinks is affordable. We have average rents for a one-bedroom apartment in Dublin, €2,000, a three-bedroom house, €3,500. And the woke Liberals will tell us, oh, well, we need migration to run the health service. Well, if we didn't increase the population the way we did, the health service wouldn't be under the strains it's under. And also, our own doctors and nurses are being forced to emigrate because they can't afford to live here.
Yeah,
so
true.
if they could stay, we wouldn't need to import the people. But we've a class that believe, and they talk about international obligations and the law. As far as I'm concerned, the government's obligation is to its own people. And we had the ludicrous situation, for instance, of the High Court in Dublin saying that the Irish government couldn't deport anybody back to the UK because of the Rwanda policy.
Yeah.
You know, and they said that the UK was not a safe country to return people to. Notwithstanding the fact that many of the people who have come into this country have been in the UK for 10 and 15 years, and they're just asylum jumping, and it's because of the better welfare class. But you ask, why did this happen? The Minister for Integration, Roderick O'Gorman, tweeted about 2 years ago in 12 different languages, come to Ireland and we'll give you your own house in 6 months. If I was sitting in somewhere in Africa or Somalia or somewhere like that and I heard that, I'd say, sir, we might as well go over there, look at the benefit system and he'll give us a house. And we had this flood, and it's coming right from Europe. Many people who have been across multiple jurisdictions to try and claim asylum and have failed everywhere. And we simply do not deport people. Last year we brought in an amnesty for people who had failed in their asylum applications, who had gone right through to the High Court and failed at every step, and we don't deport them. And then eventually we give them an amnesty. Like,
well, I tell you, you're going to be getting people from England applying for that situation. You know, if you're being offered a free house and everything like that, it's led to an incredible mess. We'll see, Malachy, how it's going to develop and how it's going to resolve itself as well. But a lot of our audience throughout the rest of Britain very worried by what they're seeing, and they dread that this could happen in the UK as well. So is there to be a lesson learned or not? Malachy Steenson, who's a commentator, appreciate your thoughts on things, Malachy. We're going to leave it there. Thanks for explaining all of that.
Lovely. Thanks, Eamonn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Coming up to 8:30, still to come on the programme. The Prime Minister is set to deal with Britain's fragmented and broken skills system today in a major speech. Catherine Forster is going to have the latest on that for us. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, promises to crack down on car washes and beauty salons in an immigration blitz. That's next on GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, the southbound exit at junction 42 for the eastbound M62 is partly blocked for emergency repairs, causing delays. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed each way along Parnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. In Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, the inside lane's closed southbound where a car broke down just before junction 11A for the A5 north of Dunstable, causing delays. On the M25 from Hertfordshire into Buckinghamshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junction 17 and 16 from Maple Cross to the M40. There are queues from junction 19 at Watford, and in Devon the A38 is closed westbound from the Deep Lane junction at Plimpton to the Marsh Mills roundabout after a crane caught fire, causing queues towards Plymouth.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
She could have said stump.
you made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Loads of you getting in touch on Yvette Cooper's planned crackdown on nail bars and barbers and the like, and illegal immigration in those sorts of places. Dickie's been in touch saying you've got to ask the question, when you have 6 barbers, 4 nail bars, 4 vape and tech shops, 5 cafes and 3 car washes in a small area, and they all only take cash, whose palm was buttered to allow these sorts of businesses to open in the first place?
What other businesses have you got? Any? That's the high street taken up there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, in lots of places, it is quickly becoming the high street.
Yeah.
Think about where I live, around there, it's all those sorts of places. Phil says, surely the easy way to solve the cash versus card issue with all businesses is to make it illegal not to accept both forms of payment. Then they could not just insist on cash only. I also wonder if more income is traceable, how much extra tax revenue could be raised for the country.
That is the question. That is the question. Well, the Prime Minister's launching a new training programme today aimed at sharpening workforce in line with the economic needs. In other words, if we don't need it, why train for it? And if we do need it, make sure there are people trained for it.
Yes, it's called Skills England, and it's aimed at addressing a fragmented skills training system in Britain. And it says it will bring it closer to together the government, businesses, unions and providers to address the skills gap.
And it will collaborate with the Migration Advisory Committee to reduce reliance on overseas workers. And it'll do all of that whatever way it can. Deputy Editor of Spiked Online, Fraser Myers. Good morning, Fraser. What do you make of this?
Good morning. I mean, I suppose it's an issue that needs to be tackled. Britain has a serious problem with skills. Around 36% of all current job vacancies are remaining vacant because of a lack of skills. Poor skills holding back economic growth, productivity, and think of some of the targets that Keir Starmer has set himself to build lots of houses. There's around 150,000 missing skilled construction workers currently. But you do have to question whether an announcement like this is actually going to make a big difference. Often, governments all the time like to create new bodies, new quangos. They oversee things, they move money around, but do they really fundamentally change the picture?
They've got to make bricklaying attractive, don't they? They've got to pay the right sort of money. They've got to make it seem the desired profession. Which under Tony Blair, all these things weren't seen as. They had to go to university, and it was education, education, education.
Absolutely. It's great that 50% of young people go to university, but what about the other 50%? We don't think about them as much. Those people don't have the same pathways And as you say, it's a question of not just money, but also esteem. It is still, unfortunately, as long as we continue to look down on apprenticeships, on technical training over academic training, then that is not where, young people with good skills are going to want to go into.
And then those 50% that do go to university, many of them just saddled with these huge debts, and they don't even have a graduate job to go into.
Unfortunately, yes. And so what you end up with is that jobs that used to not require degrees suddenly start asking for degrees. You have many people. There was a recent survey that came out that said, I think, 1 in 10 students actually earn less as a result of their degree because it's such a Mickey Mouse course, and they've actually just wasted 3 years of time where they could have been in work and gaining valuable work experience. Now, that's not to do down universities. So, we have some excellent universities, and most people do come out with a graduate premium. And also, there's more to university than just skilling. It's good to learn knowledge about the world. It's good to gain skills.
I don't know if you saw our item from Ireland just before you came on, and basically you've got a situation there where migration is completely out of control, that you've got a government that was far too welcoming to this. Ordinary people are now out of jobs, out of homes. They haven't got hospital spaces, education, whatever. This is the nightmare that many people in England in particular fear will happen here as well.
And I think in Ireland, you have to bear in mind that historically, this is not a country that has taken high levels of immigration. Even recently, actually, it has, since the financial crash, it's been a country of emigration. People have been leaving Ireland in droves. But now, I think it's around 5% of Irish people are foreign-born already. That's just an increase that's happened in the past couple of years. You go to small villages, and all of their facilities are being taken over to house asylum seekers and refugees. There's a city in Dublin that had to be cleared of asylum seekers. So clearly, this is a kind of nightmare situation, as you say. This is what we want to avoid. We don't want to have, migration overrunning and overwhelming public services to the point where people start to riot and protest.
Right, big reaction to that. And Fraser, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to take a break, and we've got the stories that are making the news in the papers. Dawn Neeson, Chris Akabusi, right after this.
Thanks.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm joined now by Stefan Kyriasis to give us the latest on everything theatre.
So, yeah, we're going in first with Starlight Express, which is back. It's not in the West End. It's out at Wembley at the Troubadour Theatre, which is a big, almost kind of warehouse space, which suits because, as you know, have you seen the show?
Starlight Express was my first ever musical. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. I only saw it once, but I remember it being magical.
Well, this one, it's 1984 it started, and it's still running in Bochum in Germany in a huge arena. So basically what we've got, they've slightly tweaked it, and it's a little boy or little girl, depending on the cast, going to bed, obsessed with toy trains and dreaming of trains. Everybody is dressed up. To me, it looks like a cross between Tron and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I don't really think any of them look remotely like a train, but hey, the songs are Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's pop mixed with kind of cod 1950s rock and roll, some power ballads. The lyrics are politely like something out of an old speak and spell machine or something, He's a steam train, they're out of date, he's being bullied by the diesel and the electric, and he falls for this carriage, the first-class carriage, new girl Pearl, and he wants to impress her, so he enters a race, and that's pretty much it. And when the races happen, all these barriers come up around where we're sitting, the lights are flashing, the music's thumping. It's utterly ridiculous, and I felt like a kind of teenager that was huffing sherbet dib-dabs off a giant block of sugar. It's so much fun, and the really crucial thing about it all is that somehow, in the middle of all of that, I felt myself getting into the story. And when Pearl and Rusty have their little duet, I was very moved. And there's this big starlight sequence, which is the inspiration, the magical starlight that he's seeking. It's beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat zone.
As time passes, she could have saved Storm. You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, Chris Akabusi, if I was to undergo a healthy diet, would energy drinks feature in it?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be for me. So I was really quite surprised with this story because I didn't realise that energy drinks are used by certain contingents as a diet control. I understood the benefit for energy, well, say the benefit for energy, why people feel that you get the energy boost, because you do. You know, if you take those things for the first 20 minutes,
but
half an hour.
losing weight?
But yeah, weight loss. But then I was having a discussion with Dawn and she was saying that, you know, it's the way of the world that many people use things like this and other narcotics, and can't say they are narcotics, but other narcotics, to sort of dull the sense of needing to eat.
It's the infamous diet of models, isn't it? It's Diet Cola or energy drinks, a modern-day version, cigarettes and cocaine, let's be honest. I mean, Class A drugs. I mean, it stops you feeling hungry, stops you wanting to eat, therefore you stay ridiculously underweight.
I remember the days when Lucozade was given to you when you were sick.
Oh, God, yes.
Or when you're in hospital. And it used to be wrapped in...
orange cellophane.
Yes, cellophane, yellow cellophane.
And it tasted ghastly, so you certainly didn't want to drink it as a nice...
No, it doesn't taste any different than it tastes today. I really enjoy it.
Oh, no, today you've got apple-flavoured Lucozade.
Oh, no, I can't stand all that rubbish. I mean, original Lucozade is wonderful.
One. The bright orange one that's full of sugar and colourants. And...
So the idea was the tagline was Lucozade aids recovery.
And that's it, exactly.
And that was sugar in that, which obviously made you feel a bit better. But now the emphasis is not about getting you better, it's about making you feel fit and strong.
Yeah, well, it's caffeine and strong caffeine hits, and there's other sort of numbers loaded with it. I mean, certainly, I went one day not eating, I was travelling around, driving, and I had 2 cans of a particular brand, and actually, it wasn't good for me. I felt a little bit dizzy after that. So
Were you more excitable than you are now, even?
I was just going to say that.
But actually, no, almost to incapacity. I was bouncing off the walls, but absolutely couldn't do anything. So, no, I definitely would advocate going on those sort of...
I must confess I do have an energy drink before I go to the gym.
Do you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's a good reason to have an energy drink.
I mean, but it's come a bit of a habit. Even on days where, like today, where I didn't have time to go to the gym, obviously, before coming in here, I still have one.
Yeah, when I do long drives, I was driving from here to Scotland, for example, I would have an energy drink. Yeah.
But you're so full of energy in any case.
You don't need anything. No, like a boozy.
Surprised he drives to Scotland. I thought he just runs or walks.
Run.
Dawn, should we go from drinks to cheese? And apparently Brits are enjoying stinkier cheese.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I love cheese.
I love cheese. But cheese is so bad for you,
very bad for you.
I love it past its sell-by date, even better.
Ew.
Well, cheese is mouldy is one of the things you can eat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But we're turning our nose up. Let me do the serious side first. We're turning our nose up at cheddar in favour of things like brie and the stinkier, softer cheeses. And both Ocado, the online grocer, and Tesco's reported that sales of things like, as I said, like the stinkier soft cheeses are going up. And the most popular cheese now is feta and halloumi sales have gone up, and burrata.
Burrata,
whatever that is. But brie is the most popular.
Yeah, that
you'd like burrata.
Would I?
It's like really soft.
I'd stick with cheddar.
Nice
cheddar is very...
Oh, no, the camembert, a nice aged camembert is beautiful, where it just starts to sort of ooze and run. Oh, yes.
I like that. What's that one, Wallace and Gromit or whatever it is, where they have...
Wensleydale.
Wensleydale. I like a bit of cranberries in it.
Oh, yeah, that's a lovely one too. There's no such thing as bad cheese in my book.
What about bad words in the office? Office lingo.
Oh.
This is reporting the way Oh well, I don't. You explain it, Dawn.
Right. Okay. Well, this is young folks' office lingo, right? And it's normally aimed at boomers. I mean, people like us, Eamonn. So we don't understand what they're talking about, and it's words like Neanderthal, duck shuffler, or worse, testiculator. Now, a Neanderthal is you did exhibit a bit of it just then, if you don't mind me saying so. A Neanderthal is you're slow to grasp things. So by even asking what it means you're slow to grasp that. A testiculator is someone that basically just talks our spherical male objects while gesticulating a lot. So you're talking rubbish, but you're gesticulating. But my favourite one is, I'm going to say this very, very carefully, Chris, help me out here, a clock sucker, which is meaning someone that basically is just watching the clock all the time, so they're counting the time to go home. But it's aimed at older people like us who don't understand what's going on.
I love the word testiculator. I'm going to use that one.
Testiculator?
Yeah, I love that.
I've never heard of any of them.
No, but even you're getting old now, Ellie.
Yeah, clearly.
I hate to say this.
I'm getting on up there.
You are?
Yeah.
Respectable homeowner.
I am now, yeah.
You see all that business of talking older, but I'm just fed up with this. If I sat down with any of them in a general knowledge quiz or whatever it is, you'd wipe the floor with them. Wipe the floor. I have no doubt about my knowledge and anything, yet you're treated like an idiot, particularly by your kids.
Yes, no.
That you don't know anything that...
I don't know if it's because I've got to a certain age now, but I do think that the generation divide is wider than it ever has been.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
And I think there's a lack of respect.
Definitely.
I mean, I was brought up to respect my elders, and I'm not getting that now.
You're treated as stupid. What I don't like about the Biden story is that they talk about his age. It's nothing to do with his age. No. It's to do with his mental capabilities and if he's ill with something else or whatever. There's lots of people in their 80s who are very smart, into their 90s are very smart and can wipe the floor with anyone. But to make out age as a problem all the time, it's a huge plus often.
Well, absolutely, because you have knowledge and you have life experience, and there are things you can't learn, as we're talking about at university, that you have to have that lived experience. And I agree, Eamonn, completely that the ageism exhibited about the Biden story is obviously he's got, degenerative mental health issues. But, I mean, Trump's 78. I mean, he's still sharp as a tack, whether you like him or not.
As long as they can do the job, that's fine. Being ill is a different matter.
Yeah,
so it is.
yeah.
Chris, the Olympics start on Friday.
Yeah.
And the security operation is well underway.
Yeah, absolutely. 45,000 police, 10,000 soldiers, fighter jets, snipers, spy planes, drones, a ring of steel of 93 miles, exclusion zone. It's going to be the most tightest security ever. We were again talking in the green room about the first time it came to my mind anyway, and Dawn's got a particular story there, but 1972 Munich, where the Israelis were, I can just remember vividly, a row of seating where the Israeli sports people who'd been taken out were no longer
terrorists, I mean, it was my favourite Olympics because Mark Spitz, swimming was my sport, and I love Mark Spitz, and he got 7 gold medals and broke all the records in swimming. So, I mean, I was only 8 watching it, but then obviously it was the Olympics that ended in the horror of the Israeli athletes being killed.
Yeah, I think...
And wasn't it unbelievable that those games continued?
Yeah.
So the people were shot dead, and then they decided 3 days later to continue with
it. They say the show must go on. I mean, it happens all over the world. Things must carry on. But it always amazes me, as a sports person. I mean, I went to 3 Olympic Games, and the last thing on my mind was security, and yet from Munich onwards, security has been ramped up every time.
I wonder if this is the issue with some of the ticket sales in France, in Paris, because Paris has seen quite a bit of terrorism attacks and, a lot of unrest recently. So I do wonder if people are wary about going to Paris.
That's if they can catch a plane to get there, Chris. Britain's still reeling from this big IT outage last Friday.
Yeah, I think that it's a sort of a cautionary tale. We do rely so much on our IT systems, and I do know that in the business world, your cybersecurity is #1 on the agenda. The CTO is a very important officer on the C-suite level. But people's lost their holidays, or holidays was disrupted. Hospital appointments, banking, and we have got to start thinking about not relying on these massive companies like Microsoft, or at least having a contingency plan to ensure I mean, what would happen in this organisation, for example, if the IT systems got hit? You all of a sudden...
Everything. It's like, you know, we've all seen that disaster movie, haven't we? Remember the year 2000 when the new millennium come in? We're all convinced that every bit of technology would go wrong, planes would fall out of the sky, etc., etc. Nothing happened, obviously. But it is along those lines, isn't it? I mean, it brought everything to a grinding halt around the world.
Absolutely.
How can we all be so reliant on just one piece of technology?
Well, and yet we are, and so it's really important then to have, you know, these disaster recovery mechanisms to ensure that you are resilient enough for the show to go on, relating back to the other story. So, yeah, I think that it's a cautionary tale. It's happened. We now know it can happen. It was only for a few hours, but what happens if it's for a few days?
Yeah. And it's remarkable how easily it can happen as well. Apparently it was overnight and it was just one person messing up one bit of code, leading to this global outage.
I mean, CrowdStrike are a company that are designed to stop this happening, to stop hacking, to stop hostile attacks bringing computer systems down. And it was there an updated software patch that was sent around without anyone testing it that brought everything to a grinding halt.
So if you were, I mean, if you were, for example, I'm going to take an evil empire, as so-called, if you were the Russian Secret Service right now, would you be sort of thinking, right, OK, so it does work, let us target the Western world?
Yeah, you don't have to nuke anyone these days, just flick a switch off.
Yeah.
OK. What about flicking a switch off? 9 in 10 chief executives often work from home.
There's a seamless link here, because the story we've just been talking about with CrowdStrike, if more people have been working in their place of work, in their offices, systems would have been up and running quicker, because this particular technical glitch meant that every Microsoft computer had to be physically the computer seen by an IT department. If you're all in one office building, you can do that much quicker than people working remotely. So a lot of systems would have come back sooner if they'd all been in one building rather than sitting in your living room watching TV. Hello, if you're watching TV when you're meant to be working. But this survey is a survey of more than 500 bosses, isn't it, ordinary workers, so that found that 90% split their time between head office and flexible workplaces. Not necessarily a home, that can mean your holiday home or a beach, I'm assuming, or something like that. But 2/3 say that if they insisted on their staff going back into work full-time, people would just refuse to do it. I'm sorry, I find this attitude appalling. I know I'm old school and I keep mentioning it, but I think going to work is the best thing you can do. I mean, it's so good for your career development, for
meeting people,
relationships, meeting people. I mean,
well, I know a company who had a change of management, and they said, right, this policy of working from home, we're doing away with this. Everybody back in the office, and they couldn't do it because they'd now hired so many people outside, there was nowhere for them in the office, so they couldn't actually go back. So they had to maintain the policy of working from home.
Well, and it's a cheapskate. The newspaper group that I used to work for, they've literally got rid of all the staff working from home. It's fine if you've got a lovely house in the countryside where you've got free Wi-Fi and you've got your own room. But if you're a youngster and you're living in shared accommodation, working from home means shutting yourself up in a bedroom all day.
Well, you're lucky you're not working from home. We're in here. Enjoyed having you today, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Here's Marco with the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We're starting the new working week on a rather cloudy note with outbreaks of rain in places. That will tend to clear to sunshine and showers as we head into the afternoon. This morning we've got some heavy bursts of rain across the south of Scotland into northern parts of England. Across Northern Ireland, the rain tended to clear to give way to some sunshine through the morning, whereas the rain across the south will also move its way away towards the east, allowing skies to brighten from the west. And certainly across southern parts of the UK into the afternoon, plenty of sunshine around. Much of Wales, central and southern England should see plenty in the way of sunshine, lifting temperatures around about 24 Celsius, 75 in Fahrenheit. A few heavy showers though across northern England and southern Scotland this afternoon. Could even be a few thunderstorms here to end the day. So as we end in the afternoon then with a mixture of sunshine and showers across Scotland. Again, 1 or 2 of those showers could be on the heavy side, particularly across southern parts of the country, and 2 across parts of Northern Ireland into the north of England, where again we could see 1 or 2 thunderstorms as we go into the early evening on Monday. Whereas across more southern parts of the UK, much of central southern England and Wales ending the day fine. Again, plenty of sunshine around and temperatures at this stage still into the low 20s Celsius. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period on Monday, notice that the showers start to ease for a while, but we will see more showers moving in from the west, certainly across parts of England and Wales, so turning quite wet once again by Tuesday morning here. The best of the clear spells overnight into Tuesday morning reserved for the north and northwest of the UK, and here it will turn quite chilly under those clear spells by Tuesday morning. We could see temperatures down into single figures, whereas towards England and Wales, with the cloud and the showers around, temperatures hold up in the mid to high teens, so quite a humid night here. As for Tuesday, well, quite a cloudy start across England and Wales, further showery bursts of rain in places. That gradually starting to ease as we go through the day, giving way to a mix of sunshine and showers. The showers easing though from the northwest later, so Northern Ireland and the west of Scotland should end the day on quite a sunny note as a ridge of high pressure moves in from the west. Those temperatures responding to the sunshine into the low to mid 20s in places.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A720 Edinburgh City bypass is partly blocked westbound by an accident at the Straighton junction with queues from the Lasswade junction. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, the southbound exit at junction 42 for the eastbound M62 is partly blocked for emergency repairs with delays from junction 44 at Rothwell. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed each way along Barnsley Road at Mapplewell after an accident yesterday afternoon. In Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed each way along Deansgate in Bolton after a pub caught fire. On the M25 from Hertfordshire into Buckinghamshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junction 17 and 16 from Maple Cross to the M40, with queues from junction 19 at Watford. And in Devon, the A38 is closed westbound from the Deep Lane junction at Plimpton to the Marsh Mills roundabout after a crane caught fire with queues from Lee Mill Bridge.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance to win our Super Summer Giveaway. With your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Go and get another glass of that bubbly, you've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Yes, it's a historic day for America.
Yes, also music going off my phone. Joe Biden, he's dropped out of the presidential race after growing pressure about his health. He endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to take on Donald Trump.
Dozens of key Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, back Kamala Harris, but President Obama keeps quiet about who should be Biden's successor.
Trump and Republicans waste no time with their attack, calling Biden not fit to serve and to resign the presidency immediately.
But how have Americans reacted to the newly reshaped presidential race?
Harris polls well against Trump, so I think she has a real shot at winning.
I just don't, like I said, I'm still trying to process this because I'm literally just like, damn.
There isn't a strong alternative, but it's better in my mind. Whoever it is better than Trump.
I was gonna vote for Biden.
And in other news, the Prime Minister is set to deal with Britain's fragmented and broken skills system, as he puts it, in a major speech.
The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, promises to crack down on car washes and beauty salons in an immigration blitz.
He might have ruled out strictly, but Conservative MP Mel Stride hasn't ruled out trying his hand at the Conservative leadership.
I haven't ruled that out and I haven't ruled it in. We don't yet know what the contest holds. The party board is going to come forward shortly, I think, with the process, and I will finally take a decision at that time. Some colleagues have been speaking to me about that possibility, and it's something that I'm weighing up.
Good morning. We're starting the new week on a rather cloudy note across the UK with some outbreaks of rain in places. Skies will brighten as we go through the morning. There's certainly some sunny spells this afternoon, but a few showers around too. I'll have all the details later.
Well, the time, 2 minutes past 9 o'clock on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, President Biden, as you will be aware, has announced he is standing down from the presidential race, saying it is in the interest of both his party and the country.
Well, it comes just 4 months before Americans go to the polls, upending the race for the White House.
And it follows weeks of intense pressure from fellow Democrats after a faltering debate performance against Donald Trump at the end of June.
Well, joining us now is our GB News reporter, Mark White. Good to see you this morning, Mark. And this is a seismic decision.
There's no doubt about it. Many people still trying to absorb the news that Joe Biden has decided to step aside after very publicly declaring in recent weeks that he would not be stepping aside, that he very firmly was going ahead to fight to become president at the November election. So now not only has he stepped aside, but he has also endorsed Kamala Harris, his vice president, for the nominee to go forward as the Democratic candidate. And we'll have to wait and see. We know that the Electoral Committee for the Democratic National Convention are meeting this Wednesday to decide exactly how things will progress from here. We are in somewhat uncharted territory. And there have been something like 500 prominent Democrats who've come forward already and who have given their endorsement to Kamala Harris. They include Mark Kelly, the former NASA astronaut, who is a senator in Arizona, a key swing state, and also I've forgotten his name, I do apologise, but Pennsylvania governor as well, who again is in a swing state, and there is talk about Josh Shapiro. It's just come to me. So there is, talk about either of those two potentially going onto the ticket to become Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate going forward. And although, as I say, there have been lots of messages of support for Joe Biden, his critics have been quite quick to jump on this decision that has been made, chief among them Donald Trump, who is claiming that Joe Biden, if he is not fit to run for a second term as president, should not stay in office a moment longer. And after somewhat conciliatory tones from Donald Trump in the days after that assassination attempt, he is back to his acerbic best, or worse, depending on your viewpoint. He has posted on social media that who is running our country is what he said right now. It's not Crooked Joe. He has no idea where he is. If he can't run for office, he can't run for our country. So that's the view of Donald Trump.
Okay, Mark White, thank you.
From Sleepy Joe to Fiery Fraser. Fraser Myers is here from Spiked Online. There was no other way this was going to end, really, was there?
No, he's bowed to the inevitable. And it's funny, there's now an attempt to portray him as this great statesman. Yeah. He's stepping down the interests of the nation, forgetting that he's been clinging on for a month now since, you know, that debate made it impossible for him to carry on. That was when the questions about his ill health just became impossible for him to answer. And let's not forget, these questions were being raised long before that because he was seen, you know, wandering off stage, not knowing where he is, not being able to follow the auto cue, sometimes reading it aloud, saying pause for applause and things like that. So, yeah, he's bowed to the inevitable. He's bowed under pressure, and this is always what was going to happen.
For the moment, Fraser, thank you very much indeed. We now go to the Education Secretary. We're delighted to welcome and say good morning to Bridget Phillipson. Good morning, Bridget. Bridget, we're looking today. You're going to talk about skills and maybe our lack of them in certain areas. Where are we lacking, and what is education, your department, what is it not providing that you're going to change?
Yeah, it's time that we took skills far more seriously as a country, and the steps that we're setting out today to establish Skills England, to bring together that work across government, is how we will tackle all of those big skills shortages that we see in our economy. We've seen a doubling since 2017 in skills shortages. We know that too few of our young people have the chance to take on an apprenticeship. The numbers have fallen massively under the Conservatives, but also right throughout people's working lives, that they have the chance to upskill, to retrain, to benefit from those new jobs and opportunities. And we'll do that working with businesses, with providers, with our regional mayors, so that our country gets a really brighter future and all of our people get the chance to succeed at work.
Bridget, just one thing I would say over what you've said there. I'm not denying what you're saying isn't true. I believe it is true. But is it not because of your previous leader, Tony Blair, that it is true? That he's the man who said, look, forget all this training business, education, 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 books, books, books. And basically we've ended up with a lot of people who are educated for nothing.
No, I don't accept it's one or the other. So for me, with our young people, it's about making sure we've got great roots around apprenticeships, around technical education and training. And it's actually under the Conservatives that we've seen a big drop-off in the number of apprenticeship starts for our young people, and we're determined to turn that around. But also to make sure that university is there as an option for young people too, but also adults. And it's often later on in life that people will return to university, perhaps to train as a nurse, as a paramedic, or in other areas. And I want those options to be there as well. That's how we will address the major skills challenges that we see in our economy, and how we make sure that all of our people have got the chance to get on.
Can I ask you about when you're planning to impose VAT on private school fees? Because there are parents now who are in limbo, children about to go on their summer holidays. They're not quite sure where they should be putting their children in September. Many of them in modest homes, driving modest cars, working really hard to put their children in private school. They're concerned that you're going to slap on these VAT in the middle of term. Can you make assurances that that won't happen?
It's for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to set out to Parliament any changes in terms of the timescale that we will make. What I would say is that we first made this commitment in 2021, so that was some time ago. We've reiterated that commitment time and again. We talked a lot about this policy during the election, so I do think schools have had ample time to prepare. But I would also just say that for the majority of your viewers, private school for their children is way beyond their reach. I mean, we're now at the point where it's almost £18,000 per year on average to send one child to private school, and my priority as Education Secretary is how we will use that money that we raise by ending the tax breaks that private schools enjoy and invest in a brilliant state education, which is, after all, where 93% of our children will be educated.
Where, Bridget, are we going to get the areas that have such a deficit, the skills area that have such a deficit? How are you going to change things around to get bricklayers, for instance?
So partly it's about more opportunities for our young people. We've seen a big drop, especially in apprenticeship starts for 16 to 19-year-olds. And I know that there are lots of young people in our country who would love the opportunity to do an apprenticeship, for example, in construction, where we will need more bricklayers, more electricians, as we build more homes in our country. So it's about working together across government, but then it's also working with businesses, with colleges and with our regional mayors. Because I do think it's often in local communities that people will have the clearest sense, not just about where those gaps are, but also where the opportunities for the future might be. And for example, along our coast, lots of opportunities around offshore wind, around engineering opportunities, but we need to work together to make sure we're delivering those changes, and also for our adult workforce, that they have the chance to take on new training opportunities, which again have fallen by the wayside in recent years.
You've spoken about the education workforce being your first priority, and there's this push, this drive, isn't there, to recruit 6,500 new teachers. Where are you planning to get those from? And by my maths, that's about a quarter of a teacher per every secondary school in England. So it's barely going to touch the sides, is it?
So that number fills all of the vacancies we have at the moment and temporarily filled posts. And it's especially acute in areas like maths, where increasingly children are being taught by teachers who are not specialists in their field, and that has a big impact on children's learning and their life chances. I have set out a different approach with the workforce. We have to work together to drive the change that we need. Part of that is about dealing with some of those wider workload pressures that teachers and education staff are facing. But it's also just a different kind of relationship. Gone are the days that you will have seen under the Conservatives, where ministers picked fights rather than actually worked with the people in our classrooms to deliver better life chances for children. That's the different approach that I set out from day one, my very first day in the job as Education Secretary. But there's a lot to do, absolutely a lot we need to do to make teaching a more attractive place for our best graduates.
And how are you going to do that? How are you going to stop teachers quitting in their droves? Last year, 43,500 teachers left the state school sector. Well, that's 1 in 10.
So they're trained, they're up to scratch, and then they decide
and then they leave.
Not for me.
Absolutely.
1 in 10 of all qualified teachers. I mean, it's staggering statistics. What are you going to do about this?
Absolutely, I accept it. It's a really big challenge. I believe that our best recruitment strategy is having a strong retention strategy. So it's about some of those wider workload pressures that staff in our schools are facing. But alongside that, what I hear from teachers, from school leaders, is that increasingly they're having to pick up the slack of wider failure, whether that's providing food for children, washing clothes, supporting families where they're being made homeless because landlords can simply turn people out. So lots of the legislative plans that we've set out as part of that King's speech are about responding to some of those pressures. So universal free breakfast clubs in our primary schools, making sure our children get a great start to the day. Housing reform and reform around work too, so that people have got dignity and security at work. That would make a big difference to teachers, and are some of the biggest factors that teachers raise with me as part of why they just feel their job is not sustainable, and we have plans to tackle that.
Well, Education Secretary, good luck to you. We do hope that people are taken by what you're offering, re-apprenticeships, because goodness me, we need them. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, the Great British Giveaway, 30,000 quid, it could be yours. Here's how.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Charles was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
I'm Charles. I won £18,000 cash. It was just amazing, and as soon as it goes into your bank account, it just changed. It's a life-changing thing.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, Strictly. We are strictly going to be talking about Strictly and all the shenanigans going on around that. It is in crisis mode, it has to be said. Talking about that to Haley Palmer next.
Good Afternoon Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
An employment tribunal has found that a senior lawyer telling a legal secretary that she looked nice created an intimidating environment and made her feel violated.
Well, she's won her sexual harassment suit, so is saying someone looks nice acceptable in the workplace anymore?
Well, joining us now to debate this is political commentator Christine Hamilton, who thinks it should be, and author and journalist Rebecca Reid, who thinks making comments like these are unnecessary. OK, Rebecca, why is it unnecessary to tell your colleague they look nice?
Well, how somebody looks at work shouldn't be particularly important or relevant, but I think my issue here is that it's used as a sort of dismissive way to make women feel silly for complaining about things. Like, oh, it's just saying you look nice, why does it matter? But we all know there are different ways of saying things, and if you are an older man in a position of power, looking a woman up and down and saying, oh, you look nice, in a lascivious tone, which, as far as we know, is quite possibly what happened, that's not acceptable, that's not workplace appropriate, and it would make somebody feel uncomfortable.
Christine, she's right, Rebecca, isn't she? It depends how it's said. If you've got someone who's sleazy saying, oh, you look nice, you're going to be a bit off-put, aren't you?
Yes, we don't know whether this was said in a lascivious tone or not, and as far as I can see this particular case, the boss went too far and he did a lot of other things as well. But what worries me is that the tribunal has ruled that just saying you look nice could be included as sexual harassment. Now, I think that is ridiculous.
Realistically, women don't make these accusations for fun. Women don't make these accusations to be difficult. They do it because they've been made to feel unsafe or unable to work in a certain place.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, often hailed as the jewel in the BBC's crown, Strictly Come Dancing now faces an uncertain future. The show is in crisis mode.
Entertainment reporter Hayley Palmer. Let's go to her. She knows what there is to know. Hayley, good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be there this morning. I'm on a staycation in Southsea in Hampshire, so greetings from here.
Yeah. But look, if someone came along to you, and despite all the crisis we're hearing and rows and bullying and goodness knows what, and they said to you, Hayley, would you take a role on Strictly, would you?
Do you know what? I'm from a dance background, Eamonn. So for me, I've danced from the age of 3. I've danced every night after school. I had my own dance school. So I come from a background where I would be petrified of my dance teacher. I would literally be scared all day at school to go. And the ballet teacher would be so incredibly strict, and they would push you down into splits. It was quite brutal looking back. I just thought that was the normal thing. So I think if I was to go on Strictly, I would expect a certain level of training that you would have to do. Now, I don't condone any of what has gone on.
But it's no surprise to you. You see, the thing is, I think that people watch this, and one week someone, you know, they're like a farm horse or so dancing around the floor, and the next minute they're superb. That just doesn't happen by accident, does it?
Exactly, Eamonn. The thing is, they are absolute professional athlete, those dancers. I mean, the training that goes on to get to a level like that does not happen overnight. And for me, what I have noticed they have got West End stars like Leighton Williams coming on the show who are insane, who have been, trained at top theatre schools. And then you've got reality stars, for example, coming on that haven't had any training. So the Professional is trying to get the one that hasn't had much training up to that standard. And I think they almost panic because they're like, not only is that your reputation, but this is my reputation, and I want to win the competition. So I think there is an element of that. For me, I would like to see basically none dancers and really work their way up every week. That's what I would like to see on there.
And Hayley, this scandal just keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it, for the BBC? We've now got the Paralympian Will Bailey saying that he's living with injuries forever as a result of taking part in the show.
Yeah, and that's just it, Ellie. It's like almost a domino effect. I expect there'll be more stories that will come out this week. And I just find it really disappointing because it's the 20th anniversary. We sit down and we love Strictly. It's that build up for Christmas. It gives me goosebumps as soon as I hear the theme tune. And to hear all this, it's quite distressing to hear some of the stories. And I just think, what's next? And I actually do think, is the show going to be okay? Can they actually survive this?
Of course they can. It's not going anywhere. This isn't. And they haven't even hit upon half the stories. They talk about this bullying, whatever. They don't talk about how friendly the dancers get with each other and the contestants. You're nodding your head because we all know all these stories. We all know, and we all know who they are and what they've been doing with each other. But it never makes the press. It never makes the papers.
That is so true. Yeah, I definitely have heard some stories. We won't go there. That's another show. But I do think that, when they're together, they're like, oh, you're my best friend. I love you so much. They're doing TikTok dances together. Oh, I couldn't live without you. You've changed my life. And I just think, why was nothing flagged up? Because I actually saw an interview with John Sargent on GBNews, and he said that it was filmed and they had microphones the whole time. So for me, I don't understand why it's come out now. I'm so confused, and I would actually like to see the footage because none of us have seen the footage.
Well, find out and come back and speak to us again. Gotta go. See you again. Lovely talking to you.
Thanks, Hayley.
And remember, Hayley, keep dancing. Anyway, new faces. We've got Ben back here at 9:30 with Britain's Newsroom with a new face, and we'd like to welcome Miriam Cates. Very nice to see you. Very nice
to be here.
And in a new career role for you.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will know you from politics. You've been a teacher before that. You lost your seat in the election, and then you decided, I'm going to try something else, and this is it.
Yes, well, I've had a few career changes already. As you've said, I've been a teacher, a stay-at-home mum, I've done a bit of small business, and I've been a politician, but I think it's time for something new. There's plenty to commentate on at the moment, isn't there, in the world of politics and current affairs? So, yes, here I am, giving it a try.
So much going on. And do you know what I love about you, Miriam? Unlike some of your other cohorts in Parliament, or ex-cohorts, who are career politicians, but, you've got a vast background. You've been, as you said, a mum. You've got a degree in genetics, is it?
That's right,
You've been a teacher. Yeah. So, of course, that's why you're so strong about biology and, all the gender debate and so on. So, yeah, looking forward to having some fun with you this week.
Thanks. Well, you're going to hold my hand, I hope.
Yes.
And it's great as well because you can bring that experience from your time obviously in the education sector. And when we're talking to people like Bridget Phillipson, you will have an opinion, you have your own lived experience as well, which is great.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that a lot of politicians don't have is that ordinary background, having to get your own kids into school, get to the GP practice, those kind of things. And hopefully that will bring a broader experience, not just to politics, but also...
Well, what's our experience in 30 seconds, Ben? What is our experience from 9:30 going to be?
So, of course, we're going to be focusing on what's going on in America. Absolutely stunning development. However, a good one for Miriam, actually, is Labour rolling back discipline in schools.
Yes, so Labour are claiming that there are far too many exclusions and suspensions, although there hasn't actually been a big rise at all. And so saying that schools need to be more inclusive, not suspend children. But from my experience as a teacher, actually, even low-level disruption can stop everyone else learning. So what are teachers supposed to be able to do if they can't even exclude kids who are really, really behaving badly?
So they're scrapping isolation booths, detentions, and just basically letting the kids do what they want.
You can hear more from 9:30. And Ellie and I will be back tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock, and I hope you can join us sometime throughout the day. Have yourselves a good day.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We're starting the new working week on a rather cloudy note with outbreaks of rain in places. That will tend to clear to sunshine and showers as we head into the afternoon. This morning we've got some heavy bursts of rain across the south of Scotland into northern parts of England. Across Northern Ireland, the rain tended to clear to give way to some sunshine through the morning, whereas the rain across the south will also move its way away towards the east, allowing skies to brighten from the west. And certainly across southern parts of the UK into the afternoon, plenty of sunshine around. Much of Wales, central and southern England should see plenty in the way of sunshine, lifting temperatures around about 24 Celsius, 75 in Fahrenheit. A few heavy showers though across northern England and southern Scotland this afternoon. Could even be a few thunderstorms here to end the day. So as we end in the afternoon then with a mixture of sunshine and showers across Scotland. Again, one or two of those showers could be on the heavy side, particularly across southern parts of the country, and two across parts of Northern Ireland into the north of England, where again we could see one or two thunderstorms as we go into the early evening on Monday. Whereas across more southern parts of the UK, much of central southern England and Wales ending the day fine. Again, plenty of sunshine around and temperatures at this stage still into the low 20s Celsius. As we head into the evening and through the overnight period on Monday, notice that the showers start to ease for a while, but we will see more showers moving in from the west, certainly across parts of England and Wales, so turning quite wet once again by Tuesday morning here. The best of the clear spells overnight into Tuesday morning reserved for the north and northwest of the UK, and here it will turn quite chilly under those clear spells by Tuesday morning. We could see temperatures down into single figures, whereas towards England and Wales, with the cloud and the showers around, temperatures hold up in the mid to high teens, so quite a humid night here. As for Tuesday, well, quite a cloudy start across England and Wales, further showery bursts of rain in places. That gradually starting to ease as we go through the day, giving way to a mix of sunshine and showers. The showers easing though from the northwest later, so Northern Ireland and the west of Scotland should end the day on quite a sunny note as a ridge of high pressure moves in from the west. Those temperatures responding to the sunshine into the low to mid 20s in places.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is partly blocked eastbound by an accident at Tadcaster causing queues. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, the southbound exit at junction 42 for the eastbound M62 is partly blocked for repairs. There are delays from junction 44. In South Yorkshire, the A61 is closed at Mapplewell after an accident. Greater Manchester, the A676 is closed on Deansgate in Bolton after a fire. On the M42 from Staffordshire into Warwickshire, there's a lane closed southbound at junction 10 at Tamworth causing queues. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 10 and 9 from Bracknell to Bicester. On the M25 from Hertfordshire into Buckinghamshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 17 and 16 from Maple Cross to the M40. The queues from junction 19 at Watford. On the M25 in Kent, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed clockwise just before junction 3 for the M20 with queues from junction 30. And in Devon, the A38 is closed westbound at Smitherley after a crane caught fire.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
Well, I'm joined now by royal biographer and former royal photographer, Ian Lloyd. Ian,
hello, Jacob.
Thank you
good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be great, isn't it? The opportunity to go around and see where the King comes onto the balcony from. Really interesting insight to how Buckingham Palace works.
It's exciting. I went yesterday, there was a press preview, and the thing that struck me first of all is that if you're the King and or the late Queen and you're on the balcony, you can't see the Mall. I mean, we all see people coming down from the top, you know, thousands of people crowding in towards Buckingham Palace. They can't see it because of this great monument to Queen Victoria called the Queen Victoria Memorial, or they call it the wedding cake, but it blocks the view. So apparently the King has a TV in there. And the late Queen did as well. So what they do is they when they're waiting to come on, they're watching the TV to see how the crowd's getting nearer the palace. And the other thing that struck me is when we were on it looking down, is you can actually see individual faces in the crowd out there because we looked out, you know. So they do get a good view of what's happening directly underneath the palace, you know.
So they can see individuals. So if there's a friendly face in the crowd, they can see that person and possibly even wave. But they can't see that enormous mass of people you get at the big events that goes back towards Admiralty Arch.
The other thing I learned is there's a great historical link, because the person that put the east wing on the palace, because it was originally 3 sides, and Queen Victoria had, of course, 9 children, so they had to build a 4th side for all the nurseries and things. Edward Blord was the architect, but the master builder was Thomas Cubitt.
GB News, the People's Channel.